Calling to order the June 20th, 2024 meeting of the Historic Resources Commission here at 4:01 p.m. here in room 204, second floor, 111 North Front Street. The next business meeting of the commission is going to be Thursday, June 27th, 2024 at noon in room 205. That's next door here, here on the second floor of 111 North Front Street. Please note, and I'll specifically call out the fact that next business meeting is an entire week earlier. It is not the first week of July 11th, is because of the holiday. The next hearing of the commission is July 18th, 2024, at 4 p.m. Here in room 204, second floor, 111 North Front Street. Jacqueline, you raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening?
I do, Jacqueline myself.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jacqueline. An introduction of the commissioners here present this evening, starting on my far right.
Tamika Baba. Cynthia Hunt.
Matt Richard. Stuart Gibney.
Clyde Henry.
Joseph McCabe. Mike Ford.
Mega Siddle.
Okay, wonderful. And just for, make sure when you guys speak this evening, make sure I think we've got all the commission here this evening. Congrats. Just make sure that you're close to a microphone and can speak in there for record. Any items for public forum this evening?
No items for public forum.
Okay, having no items of public forum, we're going to move on to approval of the staff approvals.
So moved.
Having a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Having a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Hearing, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes unanimously. On to the approval of the minutes from the last meeting, which was May 30th, 2024.
I move to approve the minutes of the May 30th, 2024 meeting.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes unanimously. On to certificates of appropriateness this evening, starting with case HR 2406-025-148 West Jeffrey Place. Is there an applicant here for this?
So this application was moved to staff approval of business meeting, as was the second one, back to 8 Minor Place.
Okay.
So the next one would be number 3.
Okay, sorry, thank you. I did not look down the agenda that far. Moving on to 24 East Northwood Avenue, case number HR 2406-013, Northwood Park neighborhood. Is there an applicant here this evening?
And this was the application that was moved to staff approval with the condition that there's a detail on how the parking area will be edged and clarification on the boundaries of the parking area be provided. Staff has not heard or have received confirmation if the applicant, this is amenable to them, or if they'd like to stay on the agenda. So they have been placed or remained on the agenda for now because they want to discuss.
Okay, why don't we pass over this one to see if the applicant comes in this evening yet. We'll come back to this in the evening to continue if they have not for further communication with staff. So moving on to case number 4, HR 2406-014, 1234 Bryden Road. Is there an applicant here this evening? No, I'm sorry, that was moved to staff approval as well.
Oh, yes.
Okay, having that one moved on to staff approval, moving on to case number 5, 1734 Bryden Road, HR 2406-015. Is there an applicant here for that? Feel free to come forward. If I could have you both actually remain standing for just 1 second and raise your right hands. Do you each swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening?
Yes.
Okay, so you could both state your full name and association with the property in the microphone for record.
Maurice Thompson, counsel for Andrew Stevens.
Andrew Stevens, homeowner.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Jacqueline.
This application for 1734 Bryden Road is for landscaping. An application for retaining walls was previously denied at December 2018 HRC hearing. The proposal here today is to install additional plantings to visually blend in the retaining walls with plants intended to cover the retaining walls with permanent materials. Those new plants would include additional boxwoods, azaleas, and burning bushes. And the applicant notes one of the existing azalea is to be planted to a center side of the yard, and tall grasses that have struggled will be removed. So an application for the retaining wall was previously denied at the December 2018 HRC hearing. And so the applicant has submitted a revised application and an overall plan proposing complete coverage of the retaining walls. The applicant has consulted with the plant nursery in order to best achieve this result, including adding additional plantings and moving a portion of those existing plantings to more suitable locations. The applicant has included photo coverage of the existing conditions, a written outline and landscape drawing and section landscape drawing showing the proposed final outcome. The proposed final result is that the retaining walls be completely covered to return the visual appearance to rolling vegetation to be more compatible with the Bryan Road Historic District. So at the June 6th business meeting, the commission noted that the plantings look great, but do worry about the condition if the future owner does not maintain the landscaping as well. Some of the commissioners noted that the bushes may limit the permanence of the landscaping. Some commissioners noted that they support the edging, given the way the slopes are on Bryan Road and the ease of plantings or grass in this area, falling onto sidewalks otherwise. The commission noted that they like what they see being done with the greenscaping, do struggle with the challenge of setting a precedent and have to evaluate if they would have approved the overall work had the work come for review prior to installation. The commission noted they appreciate the thorough landscape plan, asked if the applicant could indicate on the section drawing where the walls and edging are currently. In response to the business meeting feedback, the applicant has submitted additional photo coverage to clarify the locations of the retaining walls and the edging. The staff recommendation for this application is to recommend approval of application HR 2406015 at 1734 Bryan Road in Bryan Road Historic District, as submitted with any and all clarifications to be submitted to HPM staff for review and approval prior to issuance of a certificate. That recommendation, the basis for that recommendation is the City Code 316.13 standards for site improvements, specifically letter A, and the City Code 316.11 standards for alteration, specifically numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 9, and 12, and the Columbus Register of Historic Properties Architectural Guidelines for Historical Plants and Landscaping on page 83. And with that, I'll turn it over to the commission.
Thank you. Well, actually, you got to turn over to the applicant if there's anything additional you'd like to add for the commission this evening.
Thank you. I think that was an excellent summary. I would just add to it that the plan seeks basically 4 key points. One, obscure the pavers or the paving, the walls, if you will, as they are laid down by the homeowners now. Sort of reduce the angular appearance of the yard and make it more gradual and sloping, softening the grade, and also by reducing the ability to see the bricks, sort of make it more green and colorful throughout, which would bring it into better harmony with much of the remainder of Brighton Road. What's not in the application, and I think is somewhat important context, I don't know how unusual this is for the commission to see somebody back over the same matter 6 years after the fact, after some litigation and still ongoing litigation. We have a trial set for potential abatement, whatever that means to whomever remains somewhat mysterious, on July 11th, which is before this commission's next meeting. So we hope to be able to hammer on something yet today. We do have some important legal arguments to be made there, but we also are not seeking to make a mountain out of a molehill if the staff's recommendations are as such where there's a way to smoothen and soften with plantings and the additions proposed the yard while maintaining the pavers as they are, then the distance between the parties is really so minor that it's not worth having a long-term legal shootout at the OK Corral. The homeowners will be satisfied with virtually any COA that allows them to do that, particularly if they're able to assuage the concerns of the HRC through additive plantings, essentially. Also, I know since the time of the 2018 meeting, there's been significant growth in the landscaping. So a lot of the concerns, I reviewed the transcripts from that HRC meeting, and I see we have a lot of new commissioners since that time, although some who are here also. A lot of the concerns articulated at that time were you could see too much of the pavers, and you can see too much black mulch or other kinds of mulch instead of greenery. So over the last 6 years, there's been some natural evolution, as one would expect, from the plantings where those concerns are somewhat ameliorated from what they were on their own. The plan would completely ameliorate that in the near term and certainly in the long term. I would just add that this is sort of an unusual case because we have this 6-year span. We haven't had, as far as the homeowners are aware, any sort of complaints from neighbors or others. Over the 6 years, they've received nothing but compliments. The home was purchased by the Stevens family as a home that was owned by a fentanyl dealer who was dealing heroin and fentanyl out of the home and died in the kitchen of the home. They bought the home out of probate. That person died there, made significant improvements to the structure of the home, and came to the HRC each time. Those 2018 hearings from the transcripts really centered on, hey, we weren't sure, we didn't know that for landscaping, we needed a COA. So there are these lengthy discussions over whether a COA was necessary, whether the papers had to come out. So there was really never any discussion over what might be a tenable solution or a path forward. We've had, I think, very productive conversations more recently with the staff and with legal counsel for the city, and sort of reach what seems like a reasonable compromise for all parties, pending whether this commission agrees with that. And then finally, I would note that with respect to the concept of retaining walls on Bryden Road, through the litigation that we've had, some facts that are fairly clear. There are 254 properties in the Bryden Road Historic District, and approximately 40 to 50 of those have some sort of retaining wall already there. And then there are probably about that many more that have something along the lines of heavy vegetation that slopes downwards, which is closer to what this yard would actually look like after the additional plants are added. And also that the architectural guidelines on page 83 do expressly contemplate the idea of keeping and maintaining retaining walls. So those are just some introductory points. The family has no intention of selling the property. They intend to remain there permanently. But they did prepare an affidavit from the realtor indicating that the home's value, the purchase price was like mid 100s due to the condition at the time they purchased it. The realtor would list it for over 700,000 and attributes a lot of the increase in the value of the home. Not that this is dispositive at all, but it's, I think, helpful window dressing in context for the commission. Would list the home over 700,000 and attributes a lot of that improvement value to the improvement in the yard. The prior yard was patchy grass, mud, washing out, difficult to maintain. So those are just some background contextual factors that I think is important for the commissioners to be aware of. The plan was as articulated and is of course flexible on our part. So we welcome any sort of feedback from the commission, but we seek approval of the essentially the recommendation of the staff.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to comment.
Sure.
In order to treat every applicant fairly, it has been the steadfast policy of this commission to evaluate all applications equally, regardless if they were submitted as the law requires prior to construction, or if they were submitted after construction has begun in violation of city code. Had this application been submitted prior to construction, I believe it would have been rejected. If we make exceptions for citizens who violate city code, we will only encourage such behavior. This application contains retaining walls. If it is approved as submitted, the walls will be approved along with the plantings. We have had many requests for retaining walls on Brighton Road. We have consistently not approved them because they are not historically appropriate with the street. Consistent with the commission's other rulings, this application for retaining walls at this address has already been rejected. The fact that they are already constructed cannot alter our decision. The current application is focused on an appealing landscape design rather than the inappropriate walls. It appears that the rationale is being proposed that argues because these plantings will hide or disguise the retaining walls, we should allow them. I cannot support that line of thought. If we approve this application based on such a rationalization, then we would be setting a precedent that will undermine all of our future decisions. If we approve this, the next month, when another applicant requests an exception from regulations based on his willingness to hide the violation, will we allow it? If not, what will we say when he asks to be treated consistently with this applicant? I cannot support an exception for this applicant based on such a rationale. I encourage my fellow commissioners to reject this application, which is inconsistent with our past decisions for Brighton Road, including a prior application for this property.
Thank you, Glenn. Real quick before I open it up to additional, usually chair starts the conversation, if that's okay. One thing I want to do acknowledge that we grapple with as a commission, and by the way, thank you for showing us. I assume these are all real photos. Just confirming, like page number 3, that's as it is today, correct? That's what we said. I think so. That house.
Yes,
Okay.
more or less, yes.
Pretty heavily planted. One thing I think we do sort of grapple with a little bit is, and it's not recognized in our code, and I think any of us who have had front lawns that deal with these kinds of slopes or light slopes or heavier slopes for better or worse, is there is still a little bit of a creeping factor and a little bit of a runoff factor. So if you slide to the bottom of the screen, although I have my opinions, again, my opinions, not the commission's opinions on the individual walls, the bottom condition closest to the sidewalk is not recognized in our code. In an edge condition probably would be for the better of districts long-term, especially districts where you have a lot of heavily sloping front lawn. Just because I actually witnessed walking up and down this very street, there gets to be a little bit, there is a creeping of the land out over the sidewalk over time. And it's sort of the inevitable. So I have a different opinion on perhaps the bottom single block height tier as I do for the rest of the landscape. But we've got landscape architects and those experienced with site planning and other architects on this team. And of course, you recognize as well, there are some members of this commission. So I'm going to open it up to start it. You want to start at this end, maybe? We just make sure everybody gets the chance to talk or think or speak.
I guess to begin, I do commend where this planting plan has come. Looking at previous photographs from the submission of 2018 to today, it really is quite impressive. And I appreciate the thorough expansiveness of different types of plant species that have been added, aiding to the native habitat of different biodiversity, pollinator species that would be enjoying such types of plant species in this area. So I think would look to continue on that. It is concerning, as my fellow commissioners have pointed out, that there is a precedent within the commission of the retaining walls being present on site. But I can see how what we're seeing today is moving towards a step of trying to kind of cover that retaining wall. Again, there's some more work to be done, as you guys pointed out, where those walls are exposed. for me personally, the more that we kind of move in a direction where we can no longer see that retaining wall, I would see it as if it was buried underground, or if it was a solid retaining wall, maintained to backfill up against that retaining wall, exposed side with soil, and then plants growing on top of that. Would that still stand? That's something that we can discuss, or others may have an opinion on. But I think we're headed in the right direction, but I would love to hear what my other fellow commissioners would have to say on this matter as well.
I have nothing to add to the current discussion.
Just to clarify, you're using the term paver, which typically refers to pavement. Are these pavers or are they wall block that were used in the construction? That's a very important point, so I want to make sure.
Do you want to answer that, Drew?
They're retaining wall blocks.
Okay,
He doesn't have the microphone. Retaining wall blocks is what
okay.
Mr. Stevens indicated.
So, and these are concrete retaining wall blocks. Can you speak to the construction of that a little bit?
Go ahead.
They were purchased at Lowe's. They are not the cinder block, if that's what you're referring to. They are, I guess, kind of a solid, oversized brick. I'm not a technical expert. I apologize.
And are they gravity laid, meaning there's no adhesive between the block,
We did put down construction adhesive.
between each?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think to your point, if this visually is buried beneath soil, I think then it becomes basically not a landscape feature, which is the goal. So to me, that is a movement in the right direction.
Hi there. So quick question. You were discussing the bit of construction. Is there a foundation under any of these walls?
What?
I don't know what you mean by that. I don't know what you mean by foundation.
Something below grade to keep it from settling, moving, whether it be compacted aggregate
Oh, thank you.
or concrete, something like a port footer, so to speak.
I understand. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we purchased tons, 6-8 tons of the, it's been so long now, the 311, the backfill. So
Like a crushed limestone or something.
thank you very much. Yeah, so anything that you see the retaining wall block sitting on, there's about a foot of that underneath. And to clarify for some of the commissioners, I did this myself with the help of some very patient friends over many weekends in 2018. And for a do-it-yourself effort, the wall has not shifted whatsoever. So
Skip the gym and work on the yard.
So we have.
Not easy work, that's for sure.
Thank you. There is approximately behind each tier, I believe we went overboard. There's about 1.5 feet of backfill behind that. So, we've had 6-7 winters now and nothing's ever shifted or moved. So does that answer your question about foundation?
I was just getting to the point of how the structure was built as if it's more of a permanent sort of structure. And then did you also perhaps do anything with drainage? Any perforated tiles, anything along those lines?
There is drainage. There is solid and a combination of solid and perforated pipe. So all the water drains out onto the sidewalk. But I did a series of drainage pipes, so we don't have, for example, water flowing out during a hard rain. You'll see it start to trickle.
So you're saying that you routed pipes parallel to the sidewalk, or I'm sorry, parallel to your steps down to the sidewalk?
They are parallel to the yucca.
On the far end,
Far
is
left.
that right? Is that the east side? Do you mind going up,
West.
showing us where you have drainage? Sure, if I can have an understanding of what's going on. Thank you.
There's drainage here, and there's drainage here. This, we ended up not really needing, because this is the entire slope covered by time at this point. So
Okay.
where we see any water dripping out, it'll be from that drainage pipe there.
Okay, so you've got rows behind the the current walls that tie into a line that comes down the sidewalk.
That's true.
Just so I understand, okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever noticed that there's any pooling on the sidewalk from that water when it
No.
collects? So it sounds like the water may be absorbed in those areas even before it gets all that far, unless it's like a downpour,
That would be my guess.
perhaps. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Well, and then you think it comes in for.
Looks lovely, but again, you would set a precedent. I agree with you on the sidewalk edge condition, as we will allow that before at other locations.
Fine.
Yeah, I'm one of the newer commissioners, so just curious, when this was previously presented, was it a result of a code violation? Then that's how it originally came before this commission then?
That's exactly correct. The homeowners were aware of the HRC and had made multiple applications for the home, the structure for changes. Were unaware that there were any sort of landscaping limitations like this that they'd be bound by. So they were first made aware of that through a code violation, at which point Mr. Stevens appeared before the commission. Again, from the transcripts, it looks like there was a lot of wrangling primarily over whether it could have been done, whether it needed a COA in the first place, and whether the retaining walls or the pavers, however you'd like to refer to them, should stay, should go. But we never really got into, well, okay, how do we add some things to ameliorate the concerns of the commission in 2008? There's almost no dialogue over that. So that's how this came to be. Yes.
Okay. And then since that application to now, it sounds like the argument is, as Clyde indicated, I just want to make sure I'm understanding your perspective, but it sounds like the argument is that you guys are recognizing that the retaining wall is a non-conforming element for this district, but by adding landscape, you're concealing it, so aesthetically, that is not a prominent element. Is that a true statement? What I just said, is that how you guys view this application now, how we're seeing it?
The application is an attempt to ameliorate this commission's concerns over the retaining walls, and particularly the concerns articulated at the time were over geometric terracing, the ability to see too much of the wall, which at the time that it was laid, or they were laid, the plantings were extremely small and there was lots of mulch, so you could see almost all of the wall. So what should have happened in 2018, frankly, is that there probably should have been this exact dialogue. Okay, how do we put some additional kinds of plants in that will flow over the top of the walls as we see in the photographs today? How do we plant some larger plants like the boxwoods, for example? That conversation never took place. I think that the position that we do not contest, to the extent that this is also part of your question, we do not contest that a certificate of that a COA is required to do something like this. The city has taken a range of positions over the years, ranging from, at the most minute, any exterior alteration requires a COA, to something more like major. But whatever this falls within that range, we don't contest that it's somewhere within that range. And in an ideal world, what should have happened is a COA should have been sought previous to any landscaping work being done.
Sure. Okay. And so what it sounds like is, from your perspective, then originally it was an oversight in terms of what needed to be applied for. And then since then, there's been some back and forth about how we try to make the situation better. And that's why we're returning to this. I do agree with some other commissioners. I really like the way that this looks from, landscaping. perspective. And I think the effect of that wall has been diminished greatly. But it's still have a challenge, I think, in general with this particular non-conforming element. So I think that's what lies in the balance for myself, and it sounds like maybe some of the other commissioners. But I do appreciate understanding, it sounds like there was a lot of engagement with the commission prior on other aspects, and this wasn't a willful act of negligence in terms of not wanting to do the right thing. It was more of an oversight now of trying to rectify the situation.
I think that's right. To build upon your comments, Commissioner, the question has always been, okay, whoops, exactly, an oversight has been made here. What do we do about it now? And that's always been the focus is, on the one hand, you could take a bulldozer and bulldoze the entire front yard and throw a bunch of dirt in there and return it to grass. The city previously has indicated in evidence that there was nothing particularly historic or architectural about that grass itself. So that's probably not the solution, which is why we have staff approval today and the legal counsel for the city seeking approval of this plan as well. So the question, what do we do now? There were some flippant side comments amongst all parties back in 2018. But from what I can discern, the parties never drilled down on that issue, and that's what we're attempting to do today. Say, okay, what do we do now? If we go to court, what would the court even know to do? The magistrate has indicated removing the retaining walls isn't really a viable option. So what is the magistrate supposed to do if we have trial in July? So we'd rather work with the commission on some sort of constructive solution. And if that COA means indicating that the COA is conditioned upon covering 90% or even 100% of the retaining walls, and that's entirely viable from our perspective.
Okay. No further questions. Appreciate the context.
Thank you. I'd like to start and then cited a few letter of the law by which you concluded that this is something that is you're recommending be approved. Can you remind me what those are? For the contents?
Yes, so the city code that is staff recommendations based on are the 3016 sets of standards for site improvements, and particularly letter A. And so that reads out, so just one letter, I'll read that out. Landscaping, parking, utility, or service areas, walkways, and similar improvements should be compatible to each other, to the subject building infrastructure, as well as to adjacent contributing properties, open spaces, and the overall environment. So with this amended application, staff feels that this does meet much better as far as being compatible with the overall environment, with the rolling hills, like Brighton Road, and that visual greenery there, and avoiding breaking that up with the retaining walls, at least visually. And then there's also the city code 6.11 standards for alteration. So those include numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 9, and 12. So some of these were from the original staff report, and there's a few others added just because they seem relevant as well. And so we have the every reasonable effort shall be made to use the property for its original intended purpose or to provide a compatible use for minimal alteration. So this alteration from staff's eyes, we're seeing a compatible use. And then number 2, the distinguishing characteristics of the property shall not be destroyed. The removal or alteration of any historic material or distinctive architectural features shall be avoided wherever possible. So I believe this would apply to that rolling hill that we see in the Brighton Road. So with this proposal and alteration, we're seeing that come back to that symmetry of the streetscape for Brighton Road. And then number 3, each property shall be recognized as a product of its own time. Alterations that have no historical basis and which seek to create an earlier appearance shall be discouraged. So I believe this would apply for that original application in which the retaining walls were very visible. And then, that may be popular elsewhere, but having them just out and really breaking up that landscape at that time is not something to be able to support. And so the alteration here, covering those retaining walls with the landscaping to achieve that rolling hill, again, it's bringing that into compatibility with that city code. And then number let's see, yeah, I think number 9 or number 4, things which have taken place over the course of time are evidence of the property's history and environment. These changes may have acquired significance in their own right, and if so, the significance shall be respected. So just say items that might be original, but over time they become significant. And then number 9, contemporary design for alterations for the property shall not be discouraged when such alteration does not destroy significant historical, architectural, or cultural material, and its design is compatible with the size, scale, color, material, and character of the property, its environment, and its surrounding properties. So again, that's another area where we feel that we can support it based on that. And then number 12, in passing upon appropriateness, the commission shall consider, in addition to any other pertinent factor, the architectural characteristics typical of structures in the district or listed property, the historical and architectural value and significance, architectural style, general design, arrangement, texture, material color, the architectural feature involved, and its relation to the architectural features of other contributing properties in the neighborhood. And then finally, the guidelines. So the guidelines note where historic landscaping features exist and preserve and maintain those features. The latter sentence probably does not apply in this instance since the retaining wall was not historic. But in this case, the proposal is to better make sure the landscaping feature of that rolling hill is visually maintained.
Thank you. It's really about intent, so I guess the question is rolling hill the intent, or is it grass that's the intent? If grass is the intent, then it's not grass. But if the rolling hill is the intent, then I can kind of see, I can go with this. As everyone has said, that there's an appeal to it. I mean, I have a personal opinions, but that shouldn't matter. It's really what the law says. And so I think it's the intent that we need more clarification, and maybe this is for us, maybe we need more guidance in the future about, just because I know a lot of the historic district documents feature a lot of architecture. I think we need something more landscape architecture so that we don't run into this issue again. Because to me, this looks like a rolling hill, but it's not grass. And I don't read anything in what you're saying that it needs to be grass. But I don't even say that originally if it was grass, we can't replace it with flowers and plants. So I don't know. So I could go either ways is where I'm going with it. It looks good though. So I mean that's a plus. That's all I have. So it's a little bit murky.
So the city code guidelines do leave a little bit up to interpretation as far as compatibility for sure. And that's so, different districts that might have different qualities. I think that's where that comes in, is evaluate the district.
Yeah.
Are you able to click onto the agenda to the previous application from 2018? Though I know it's a different application. The reason I reference or bring this up is I think this might be the only photo that I think we have essentially on hand that shows what I believe to, and maybe the applicant confirmed this. This was the 2018 condition prior to the other alterations on the left. That was what we were looking at immediately before the walls went in.
That's correct, Chairman McCabe. And in fact, one additional factor that might be noteworthy for the commission, and by the way, with respect to the last comment, there is no reference to grass per se in the municipal code. There is some reference to grade, and that's one of the reasons we and the staff are focused on grade and trying to make the grade more consistent with how it was in 2018. But one of the factors that I wanted to mention that I neglected to mention at the outset is that there was a retaining wall for a long time, at least one retaining wall on the property. You can see some chunks of rock there to the left of the stairs.
Can you zoom in on that picture on the left a little bit more for us?
Yeah, it's difficult to see in that photo based upon the colors, but what you can see in that photo is obviously the sort of poor state of the lawn, the difficulty to maintain a lawn at that steep of a slope, the fact that it had been mud washed out, and that old retaining wall appears to have perhaps been ill constructed itself and have washed out over time. Some sort of minor terracing in response to that situation, I think was what the homeowners were primarily concerned with. Sorry, that's just beyond what you, I believe, were asking, but I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, and was kind of the roll, the flat top looks like it had grass on it, and it's kind of the roll area, was that a ground cover originally?
I think the answer, I think the answer to that is no, that this was grass
That was grass all the way down.
And what you have on the 1700 block of Brighton Road in particular are some difficult situations where you have sort of a flat top remaining from when the house was constructed, and then a steep drop off. And it's interesting that you mentioned sort of the edging issues and maybe washing out
Right here, yeah.
onto the sidewalk originally, because one of the problems the homeowners were repeatedly having was the mud washing out onto the sidewalk on heavy rains, the inability of that grade to hold grass, no matter what they attempted to do so. Obviously, they made significant improvements in the house. They didn't want the lawn to be looking like that at the same time that they had poured their heart and souls into the home. So some of the concerns about drainage under the sidewalk, whether the vegetation should flow onto the sidewalk, which were, by the way, we're very open to however the commission prefers to handle that. We have no position on those things. But some of those conditions and the difficulty in maintenance were true, or perhaps even more true under the original lawn as compared to the new design.
This picture reminds me of some other case. This picture reminds me of some other cases we've been looking at recently. We're still working with the architects where it's like a similar thing, that they start with stones and we ask them to put plants. So to me, this is, I know it's a different area, but it's kind of similar because they've added more plants, the plants have grown, and I think the intent is showing. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Seems fine with just more additional planting and keeping up with the maintenance of it and all that.
And this is staff, and we don't have to have a complete agreement, or if there's any modifications that you think would be helpful, in your evaluation of this, I think the applicant would be happy to hear. If there's any, something that could assist, in between, if that's, something that you're seeing.
And just floating this out there with this commission, unique scenarios, we've had new products before, we've had this condition of a test case being granted, an item on a test case scenario, so we kind of see what it does over time. But specifically to the ground level layer of paver, this single height block along the sidewalk, would the commission grapple with this idea that potentially, breaking this thing down into pieces, right, to give you feedback on pieces, would this commission be forward thinking enough to say that maybe we need to, we've seen the erosion factor. Is it time we sort of maybe just look at that one layer high block as being a possible test case solution, breaking that kind of out from the rest of this idea of retaining walls? We do get a lot of retaining wall requests. We've been cautious, I think, as a commission to approve retaining walls to set precedents and avoid creating future issues with setting precedent on retaining walls. But I think we inherently are finding that there's a problem. And so if we could start to look at something that's trying to solve a problem here as well.
Yeah, I'm good with that. We just have to know that that base layer and the top of the house, right, the lawn, whatever the top layer of the landscape is, needs to act as one slope. So I know that if we just break that, in the future we tell someone that you can only do the base, then invariably that base could be whatever, and it will not have the rolling landscapes. To me, yes, but you always have to consider the total effect from that sidewall base layer to the top.
Yeah.
So you can't truly separate it out, but I get what you're saying, and that sounds right, but.
To me, that bottom row of segmental block wall is actually a curb. I would not refer to it as a wall, and I think that is a different condition. So, so that's a planter curb in my opinion.
I agree with you. And I think there has been a case in the past where we did allow that curb which I think the terminology is good to say curb on that, in situations for that exact reason, because the stuff spills out on the sidewalk, which is different than a retaining wall, which I don't think we've ever approved on the street.
So in theory, had the applicant come with just that bottom course, taking the other things out of the picture, we may have said that. And I would urge the the commission to think, are there pieces of this application that are more appropriate than others? It is always the goal of the commission to work with the homeowner to see historic structures revitalized in the greatest extent possible, continue their useful life. So is there even a case here to parcel this out a little bit as well?
I think we've also had a case where where the retaining walls were literally buried in the slope, so that there was almost nothing visible anymore. I don't think that was on Brighton Road, but basically they were there holding the bank back, but they were totally buried and not visible. And that would certainly be probably a possibility here.
Wouldn't it make the profile of the slope be out of line with the rest of the block?
Well, they'd have to take them down a block, which I think is what happened on the other one.
Down a few blocks and then frame
I
it.
think they brought them down like 3 blocks and then they piled the dirt up, and so they didn't have to take the foundations and things out.
And it's still.
And it also held the soil back.
Exactly.
And the drain all worked, but nothing was visible. And I think that would be a solution, and I think that would, if that came to us prior to construction, and someone said we need to maintain our bank, and so we want to do it this way, and we're going to do it such that it will appear to be consistent with the neighborhood, with the history, I think that'd be certainly an acceptable solution.
I agree.
And we have to keep in mind that we have to look at these as though they're coming to us fresh and not, because we've had lots of stuff. We've had people who put in entire windows that they've had to take out. We've had people paint apartment buildings that we have said, no, we would never have allowed that apartment building to be painted. And they had to remove the paint from the entire apartment building. So I think that precedence of looking at things as though it wasn't construction has to be consistent.
I would like to challenge us to think. I understand what you're trying to argue, and I understand some of the points here. I'd like to kind of look at the next picture of the file and just slide it up and zoom back in on it again. And so I would also, much like I did with the bottom row block here, looking at where the lawns are here and looking at how well, by the way, kudos, these blocks are beautiful. They've really grown over the wall nicely. Is if this was then mimicked on this side with a little bit more beefy planting, we'd see where the grade is right here. Would even this lower wall then almost be a moot point at one point, because it's almost continuation of the grade right down the street? And if I follow the logic here, then the only troublesome wall potentially is up here.
Is that though really a summer condition and not a year-round condition?
Right, it's a fair question.
I mean, that's 3 weeks out of the year when the blocks bloom.
They're green after.
They're green after that. Yeah, I have a lot of them. I think taking those down a few blocks down and adding soil up would make it consistent with the other homes in the neighborhood. And again, we would have approved that prior. That's something that would have been considered.
I mean, it is a dramatically currently planted condition than the black mulch was as previously presented.
The proposal, the application before you does call for what Chairman McCabe, you've contemplated, which is covering the wall on the right with additional blocks to flow over the top of the wall, and ideally create sort of either a green, when it's not flowering, more colorful covering that's gently slopes down. The idea is with the plantings to create sort of that gentle grade, which is what the municipal code section does refer to as a concern over grade. Speaking to the backfilling comment, there is retaining wall situation. Well, there are many, like I say, 40 to 50, almost all at the curb, if not more, in the Brighton Road Historic District. 1606 Brighton Road has a similar looking set of retaining walls, and there is some looks like soil or mulch sort of backfilled up against the wall and mounted up, inclined towards it. The homeowners believe they can create that same sort of slope with these plantings as professionally recommended by Open Nursery, and that was the charge that they put to the professional landscaping was, let's create that gentle flowing, correctly colored grade and slope. And so the recommendations of the professional landscapers to do that is what we propose to the commission at this point. With respect to the, I will add non-combatively, with respect to the idea that when these things happen, which this is sort of a one-off, I think that this is probably fairly unusual for the commission, given the span of time and the growth that's taken place. With respect to precedent, the municipal code doesn't speak explicitly to a policy of considering whether it would have been approved or not as it had appeared in 2019. I think the operative question is what is necessary to make it compatible now? And again, if we would rather work in a conciliatory fashion with the commission on that, and if the commission punts on that and just says no or throws its hands up, then the court will decide and the commission will have abdicated the very reasons for its existence in instances like this. So I think it's probably better to focus on where the municipal code actually is well, what do we do now to place this into harmony in the neighborhood? And we think our plan will accomplish that in the near term and welcome any comments to that point.
For this commissioners consider, if you do look at page 5, I will give you an image of what the planting of the box looks like, but also at the time. So it does cover the retaining wall as suggested. And I do think if additional planting of that box is continued, impacting all of the retaining wall on site, that would be appropriate in facilitating the continuation of the grade that's consistent with the neighbors to either side. So that would be my opinion. Again,
Thank you for pointing that out.
Concerns.
Would the commission consider breaking out Part A to at least approve the curb condition? It seems like there's some support generally for that particular instance, and we could move that forward. Seeing some heads nodding.
I would entertain that motion, yes.
Okay, so moved to approve the curb condition as constructed and presented today.
Second.
As a test case.
Yeah.
Is that what we're doing?
Okay, so there's a motion and a second. The discussion will be as a test case condition.
Clarify that the motion.
So I would look back to the motion and the second to confirm as a test case.
Yeah, we could have that language.
It's not material to me, I can go either way. Yes, test case is fine.
Does this warrant any further discussion? I mean, as staff, I think this is pretty clear what our intent is and what our struggle has been with this condition anyway, so.
It is.
And is the applicant okay if we're looking at pieces of this, we've broken this out to, what we do is a motion A and a motion B or motion C, whatever, to look at this thing, to figure out what we can look at to be find acceptable as well versus what may need amendment.
I think it's a very logical way of looking at it.
Okay.
And let me ask you a question about Part A. You, Chairman, had mentioned the edging. If you just care to clarify what the position of the commission is on that. The homeowners are comfortable with whether you prefer the plants flowing over that bottom curb, I think was a term that was used correctly or incorrectly, Whether you prefer plants flowing over that or you prefer plants not to get onto the sidewalk, typically, when you've got your lawyer hat on, you think about, cities not wanting things on the sidewalk. But in this instance, maybe it's the appeal that you want. So if you could just clarify the position and how, whether that's contemplated one way or the other in your, well,
Valid clarification. I would throw this back to the motioner and the seconder. I have my own opinion, which is an edge condition, it's just an edge per tree, but.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I would say that from my perspective, as long as if the landscape does flow over, as long as it's trimmed and maintained to, stay off the sidewalk. What in general we're preventing is the overflow of dirt, mulch, and other things. And it's easier to trim up a plant than to continually after every rain bring back mulch and dirt conditions. So I think that would be fine if plants were maintained.
And specifically with respect to the picture shown there, is this a condition that is acceptable, or you wish to see that trimmed back? Is this what you're?
Yeah, I think trimmed back would be the
On top of the pavers, not over the pavers.
right.
Thank you.
And that does meet the intent of the motioner and the second, correct? Okay. Any further discussion? Look forward to call for a vote here. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Okay, that piece is unanimously supported and approved by the commission. Moving on to subsequent pieces here, which anything else we talk from this point forward would be a motion B, or caveated with a case number with a motion, a B as in boy designation next to it. Let's move on to discussion about walls. Any thoughts of walls? Is there a motion here? Is there a continuation? Is there, what kind of suggestions can we move forward with that helps either the applicant refine their position? Looks forward to garnering the support of the commission. Of course, we may not have universal support here, and I'm very aware of that. To me, it's I can see half of this being consistent with the overall grading condition as I kind of approach the screen, kind of pointed out. And half of it kind of protrudes above the upper tier wall, kind of comes up above the adjacent grading condition. So I think there was suggestion about, could the applicant lower a horse or two and still put the plantings there and maybe achieve the. Yeah, I'd like additional input from our landscape architects specifically who are,
Yeah, I'll speak to that. So I have no doubt that the current owner will maintain this beautifully if we approve the existing plan. It's, if you move away, someone else says, I don't like any of this stuff, and they rip out all the planting, and then we still have a wall that we didn't approve, that I don't think is aesthetically appropriate personally. So I think that's where I'm concerned. So that's why we're talking about trying to cover that wall up as much as possible.
And also, by the way, keep in mind, if you have any responses or things you would like to suggest to us, we are not the applicant's architect or designer, so we should be guiding you, giving you feedback, although we are not your designer. So if you have at any moment want to make any suggestions, feel free to do so. This is an interactive.
Or to continue,
Right.
to try to come to a decision.
Well, I would add, if you could kindly, flip back to the prior photo that was up, the front facing photo. What the nursery plan calls for, whether it's abundantly clear, and I think it's clear in our dialogue over the matter, if not in the depiction, is that front left, wall, for lack of a better term. You can see how it's completely obscured, completely covered by the larger plantings and also the overflow of the smaller. So what our plan calls for is essentially doing that same thing on the retaining wall above and on the retaining wall to the right, so that they ideally look more like what you see in the lower left on the front there. And I want to emphasize that these plants are perennial which I think somewhat assuages concern that of course, they could always be ripped out. I guess that's true of grass also. I suppose that concern over future maintenance would be a concern irrespective of the condition of any particular landscaping. But the focus here is on perennials to avoid the, concerns about constant maintenance, although we have discussed this factor, and we welcome a COA that would include a provision so long as, maintained appropriately or whatever. That's not problematic from our perspective at all because of the homeowner's prevention. And that, of course, that COA would run with the land and apply to future homeowners where they're living.
It's the wall that's on the left side of the image, the top wall, which is exposed. Would you be open to eliminating a couple rows of the top tier of the left wall that's on top of one that's exposed?
Was your question about taking some of the blocks off the top?
Maybe at least one, maybe two. What I thought, I don't know how it's constructed and stuff, so.
Yeah, let's start over with the blocks issue.
I want to ask a question though. Are we saying take a couple of the blocks off and raise the grade? Or are we saying take a couple of blocks off and deal with the plantings?
I'm saying planting.
Okay, others might be saying grade.
Yes.
Right. So it's not, that's not clear yet.
The reason my question is that seems a little off in terms of the.
Yeah.
If you were then supposed to cover it just with something
I
that
just wanted to understand what was included in that.
Yeah, please.
Because
more about the.
If a couple of rows went down, they'd have to change that grade, so they could use that to go up.
If I may, I appreciate the suggestion. So we put in this flux, my wife's suggestion, she gets full credit for it. It looks beautiful and we love it. And it's taken a number of years for some of that flux to create that kind of cascading, that rolling, that waterfall effect that you're seeing, especially on the first row. And so I do appreciate the suggestion as raised by the commissioner. My concern is some of that flux is taking so long to grow. If I take, the top row of bricks or, sorry, I apologize, the term is the block, whatever we're calling them. I am concerned about that flux that's on top now. And, we've had Oakland Nursery out to the house a number of times, as suggested by the city. And they initially, and I don't mean to make light of the situation, they kind of threw their hands up and said, "We'll just let everything keep growing." And we explained previous concerns brought by the city of the current wall that you see, what we're referring to the top block. And so Oakland Nursery was, all right, can we do some more evergreen bushes that rather than potentially harm the phlox or that top tier? Because we do have behind the phlox, kind of hard to see with all the color, but we have blue junipers, we have more boxwoods. And their suggestion was to just add to that middle tier to completely obscure that wall. Some bushes, I recall that I believe boxwoods are favored in this neighborhood, but I welcome suggestions. I personally, we love our plants. Obviously, we love going to Oakland, and I would prefer to continue to add plants to that middle tier. Very open to any suggestions to obscure that wall, the middle tier year round.
Indian answer, so unable to remove the first couple rows and bring all the, I'm not saying remove your planting, I mean, disrupt it, you have to just bring the planting down if you need to, but remove basically shorten the wall, yes, no.
Is it loose is the key, maybe core question she's asking, do you have to know whether it's loose?
I believe the top, I can just take it off, like physically pick it up right now.
You can.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, thank you. No more questions?
Would like to make a recommendation of something that we've asked other cases to do for us. With the documentation of the plant species that are there in your planting plan right now and what you're showing within the section. We've also asked if you could provide a plant table that thoroughly documents, not only just the name of the species, right now you're giving us, either common name or sometimes scientific name, but providing both of those. And allowing us and showing us exactly what the spread, how wide that plant is intended to grow. That would give us some definition to kind of stand behind as far as this is exactly what we are agreeing to when we do come to make a decision on this case. So that any future occurrences later on with this property, this is what we've agreed to, nothing beyond, whether the phlox is going to grow to 24 inches wide, 36 inches wide, right? So that any other plant species that are intended to go in, but they need to come back to us for a decision in the future. So just to be extremely specific about what is intended and how wide you expect those plant species to grow within the plan. I do understand the plan is, has a scale to
That, by
it.
the way, real quick, that would
Yes.
be beyond what is shown on page 7.
Yes, yes. So right now on page 7, we are only seeing, the figures of the plants, approximate like location where they're going to be planted, and given the common name for each plant, like the addition of the scientific name and then their height and spread as well. So a plant table, which is something that we have asked in previous cases for applicants to provide us.
And nurseries can provide that.
And nursery should, yeah, they should.
So for example, the term phlox, there's lots of different types of phlox. That's what we're getting at.
What do you think about the first row coming off of that wall? Does that help? Doesn't matter.
I mean, given additional time, we will see the same effect that we're seeing on that lower retaining wall. Take effect. I do think it's a zero time. Now we can go back and forth and talk about kind of the conditions of the plants there. Do you need to add additional blocks? Make sure that that is what actually occurs. But I think it's an issue of time. I'm more concerned with those larger patches that we're seeing below at the bottom edge of the.
I think that's great, but the fundamental question still is, are we gonna leave the walls in or asked to have them covered or taken out? I have personally faith that the applicant is willing to add, and whatever we ask them to add from a plant material standpoint, I think the real issue are the walls. Do they have to shorten, or do they have to come out? Do we have to set them unseeable under all conditions? And I think that's the issue we have to grapple with today. And I don't think, as helpful as that is, I think that addition will help guarantee to us that it could cover, right? But it's still going to take away the essential question. And I hate to have them go to that work where essentially you're going to say no walls, or you have to take off the top 2 layers. Seems like a waste of their time.
And there's the precedent then of an applicant comes to us next meeting and has a wall that's 2 blocks just as short, with this is going to be the precedent for them also receive.
That is the question.
That is the ultimate.
Because we would have to find some aspect of this situation that we felt was worthy of making an exception to what is our legal responsibility.
Mhm.
And I think that's what we're struggling with.
I agree. It's exactly the challenge.
Yeah, it's not about personal base in this case. It's
Correct.
about we have a legal responsibility to do what the guidelines tell us. And then the question becomes, if it's gonna be overridden, is that better city council override, or is that better addition? I'm not sure either is great, because if city council overrides, then that leaves the door open to others as well, which, may be a good thing from a homeowner standpoint. I'm not making a judgment about quality. I'm just saying that's the issue, and we should spend some time on it.
So it's back to the intent, right? That's what we're saying. The wall or not, what is the intent of this feature, the front landscape feature in our minds and historically? Is it meant to be a continuous fabric of rolling material that stays as a continuous fabric, winter, summer, rains, whatever? Or is it the idea that it is landscape that takes care of gradient, so that you will just kind of mitigating where the house sits versus the sidewalk? and there's landscape between it to give it an effect of rolling.
I don't feel like I can make a judgment as an architectural historian. I'm not a landscape historian, so by the 1900s.
So that's what I'm saying, so I don't think that's what we're missing.
What I would ask for is, because we have a recommendation actually from staff for approval, and it gives me at least 6 points at which staff believes this is approvable. I would like, and they're cited obviously right out of our code. But if somebody here can offer me where I think there's some opposition, what section are you sort of then referring to for the opposition of this wall then, very specifically?
So tie it back to the staff recommendation.
Well, tying this back to the staff recommendation is that this is a favorable
I know.
scenario. So what I would like to say is, why do you believe this is not? You know, taking our subjectiveness of just us saying it's a nice wall or not a nice wall, just how does this not meet code we use then to rule?
But if you look at these points, they are not related to the precedent that has been cited to date. They don't appear to relate to that precedent, which is your point, I think.
Stuart, you have your manual handy. What is the section on landscape?
What was the original reason for rejecting it? When they rejected it back a number of years ago?
Mulch was one of them.
So it was the retaining walls also.
I think the original landscape plan for this development in that area was to have those rolling grassy front lawns that drip down to the sidewalk.
Kind of
So
makes
if
it
you look
look
at
more like a
visual-
country estate.
You look down visually through the street, you see that that was a very
There
intended
you go.
specific development through the original.
Actually, go back to the photos, you know, you can look down Bright Road and the houses are elevated, sort of almost a half story or even more sometimes above.
So it doesn't break up the massing as you're taking a visualization down through there. No, I'm not saying it's not rolling currently. I'm just saying there's a visual break. So you look down beyond that area. Specifically through 116.13 for site improvements, a landscape. That was the biggest piece that I felt was most relevant to this particular case. It speaks to the way of architecturally and the way the landscape plan of that area has been maintained from a historical fabric nature. And that was part of the reason I was drawn to not being in favor of retaining walls, because I think if you appear to look at the aesthetic of that community, there's not a lot of breakup between those units all the way down the street. You'll see some variations of it, but it's very unusual to see such a break. Not to say that it's not beautiful. It's just not, I believe, how it's intended to be developed. And that was the charge, to protect the fabric.
And if it were a retaining wall, then it has to be buried inside. So you're seeing the effect, it's not the retaining wall per se, it's just the way it ends up. Like if there's nothing on top of it, there's no dirt, whatever, there's no grass over it. So you can see the wall as a wall. That's, I think.
Which would effectively keep the soil in position. Right, because there's no doubt it's the topography of that is very tall, and over time those things do move. So I think realistically that's an appropriate method to keep that soil where it belongs, as long as it's not exposed.
I think based on the staff recommendation, the one item that I keep coming back to that I can really read into in terms of support is the bullet point number 9. So under 3116.11, contemporary design for alteration to a property shall not be discouraged when such alteration does not destroy significant or historical, architectural, cultural material, and its design is compatible with size, scale, color, material, and character of the property, its environment, and surrounding contributing properties. So I think this is a good view, and I know we're all a little bit conflicted about these walls, but if I simply look at the way that the landscape is perceived to be rolling in its adjacent context, that angle and the relationship, it is, to my eye, not in conflict necessarily. I do understand that that plant material goes away, it completely changes that perspective. But I do think, based upon the staff recommendation, that's the strongest point from my perspective, to be able to approve this particular application. I don't know how we contend with future applications, because this one is an interesting case because it's had 6 years to grow. Other cases that will come before us will not have had 6 years to grow, and we'll have to speculate on how that's actually going to look. But just in terms of, moving maybe some of the dialogue forward, that is one point I think I can read into and support.
Well, and I think, but in that lies the devil in the details, right? Because plants are live material. There's speculation involved. Would be an assumption that owners will water the plants the first year, they will not die, they will trim, they will deweed. How do we control for that? Because the only way they are getting the intent is because of the care they've given. And there's no guarantee of that.
Right, right. We can't tell people, go ahead and build it, and come back 6 years later and we'll approve it.
That's strong.
Yeah, I mean, so if an applicant comes in next week, wants to put in a retaining wall with the same plantings as here, similar thereof, and says that they will desize the wall, I would feel we will have to approve it based on the same items, because we have to treat everybody the same. We can't say to one person, just like when someone paints their house, and we would never have approved the painting of the house, we can't say to him, or the brick, we can't say to him, well, he did it, you can leave it gray.
I try to play this in my mind. It's not that the material is not available anymore. Like those are other times we've said, okay, let's try this something different. Material is not available.
Or it's a new problem.
Or it's a new problem. Like, yeah, something that
Case
I'm trying to figure out what this would be. It's not a stormwater issue because grass would still allow for that. I mean, I love plants, but again, that's not what we're here for.
Oh, I think it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It does sound like the difference is previously, the question was whether or not retaining wall was visible, the mold was visible on site, and what was happening on the lower edge, which we're on our approved that. Today, with looking at this case right now as it sits, everything is grown in. And I think if they had came in today with the same plan they had before, showing us those bare retaining walls, and that question would again be, wait, what's your proof, or what kind of planting plan are you putting before us to show us that that retaining wall would no longer be visible based on over planting or a very dense planting plan, right? That would essentially cover that wall within a reasonable amount of time. Now we're here 6 years later and we have to judge on the case as it's still today.
Right, I think we have a 6-year-old situation, which is the dissolution characteristic. It's not a new build. I think we have to treat it as in situ. And not think of it as we would have rebuilt.
We weren't there 6 years before, but I guess we have to show continuity because if the
No, I'm on board with that, but they're bringing to us right now a
as
situation.
as
There's
they're
substantial plant
yeah.
material, the walls are covering, the mulch is controlled. And I would think that I would stipulate that I've heard enough that I would go to staff approval for the other planning information and figuring out how to close the gaps. Now, I don't think it's like a situation. I understand your concern, I really do, but I think it's different.
So in the future, if someone has a retaining wall and they say, and these are the plantings and in 6 years it will be covered, I would feel we'd have to approve that in the future.
I don't.
the question we would ask them, the question we would ask them is, did you build a retaining wall 6 years ago and was it there, or did someone build it 6 years ago? Are you coming now to just mitigate the effect of it? Or are you coming for approval for a retaining wall you're trying to build or have built now?
Right.
That's the difference, is what you're saying.
But the applicant built the retaining wall. It's not like this is a problem inherited.
I know, it's like, so yeah, so the applicant will say, okay, I'll keep pulling this off for 6 years and I'll come back.
What, it sounds like we have a difference of opinion here, and again, it's okay to not have a unanimous position one way or another.
An hour and 20 minutes later, I would think that's fair access.
So what I will defer to the applicant is would you want us to press on and move into motion with a potential vote? Or do you want continuation to do any future, further amendment to come back? Or where do you feel you would like to go with this? Obviously, I felt like as chair, I did see heads nodding at least on one piece where we had some agreement, right? We had a real-time problem. I want to make sure that that was recognized. It was like her piece, start to chip away at this to find out where the rest of the commission lies. So that it's constructive for both you and us. So I look forward to kind of where you think you would like this to go. And, as chair, I'll try to guide that.
Thank you for the question. We're in agreement with Commissioner Hunt's observations. It's a question, put the way she put it or the way that we put it is, well, what do we do now? How do we bring this into harmony now? We believe we have a plan that brings it into harmony now, and open to make minor modifications of that plan. And I think I just want to add that one of the reasons this is such a struggle for everybody is because this is incongruous with the analogy over a paint job. A paint job is an objective metric. Colors are objective, heights are objective. So when you're dealing with building issues, as this commission typically does, there is less subjectivity to the issue. Certain colors are approved, certain colors are not. When you get into plants that grow and change over time, you have a very different animal that you have to deal with. And I accept it. It is challenging. But there is no precedent. When you're speaking of precedent, there is no text in the municipal code that says, well, what we need to do, what we should have done 6 years ago. It is incumbent upon the commission. And the courts, by the way, have always urged, be conciliatory with the commission. And we hope that they are conciliatory with you and you all collaboratively decide, because you are to whom this question is put, the way that the legal regime is set up. And if you don't decide, then either we decide or the courts decide. And we do have that trial July 11th, and we have moved that date. The city's legal counsel has moved that date repeatedly to the point where the magistrate said this is the last time we're moving this date, because we have a statutory outlining point. And this is the last point. So either the commission decides or the court decides. And we think probably the way that the regime is set up, it's for the commission to decide. And this collaborative process we're having now is probably exactly the way that the commission does go about making that decision. So I suppose that we would welcome a vote on the staff's motion to approve our plan, up or down. And we're also open to any modifications of that plan, whether the commission proposes those modifications explicitly here or leaves those back to the staff. Because it's not clear that we have the luxury, unfortunately, because of the timing of things. It's not clear that we have the luxury for another meeting like this, at least before it goes to court and then goes up to the 10th district. We probably should have some sort of a vote. And again, we're conciliatory on these issues around the edges, regarding plantings, regarding the plant table idea, regarding the potential top row. If the commission wants to modify the staff's recommendations in one of those ways, regarding the edging, we're open to that as well. But I think down the position of this commission today is very important for everybody, for the city's legal counsel, for us, for the magistrate that would hear this case if we're unable to get anywhere. And if the answer is that the commission does not know, and does not know how it will know in the future, then that's also something for us to take to the court. I think that's not the ideal outcome for any party to this issue. But if that's what it ultimately comes to, that's something we can take to the court, which helps our case, probably gets us a better result than maybe we would get here, but I think that ideally, this is the venue for resolving this issue.
I think there's a lot of, vibration, positive vibration about the course removal. But I did sense an openness on your client's side to do that.
I'm sorry,
Removal of a course or two of the bricks. I think there's a lot of positive vibration
The
on.
question I raised, and I think you said you would do it.
Yeah, because we don't, and I get the blocks.
the top row, you use a different term, are you talking about removing the top row of pavers or something like that?
Yeah. I think there's definitely positive, I'm sensing positive nods on that topic as a nice compromise.
Yeah, our impression is that that's possible. Is there anything you want to add on that? You indicated that was possible.
And by the way, the commission, again, that goes back to the commission actually can make suggestions on ways that the applicant offer they would like to amend their application.
Right.
Even if the amendment is a verbal commitment here under record.
And we can make it a contingent approval.
Correct.
based
We
on-
can make it contingent on your, confirming that and getting that confirmation and writing to staff. But that we don't make the decision for you. So I think you're hearing some ideas here. I definitely do sense though that Cynthia is correct, which is we're hearing that you have some support here for substantial pieces of this.
I would also suggest to build on that you're adding planting in that row anyway, so you can also grade up to the wall and essentially make that whole upper wall visually go away. And I think that's a very simple thing. So that would be my suggestion. Yeah.
And is there a similar thought from the commission about the piece over here on the right, lower wall?
Yes.
Well, the lower right, I believe the applicant has already proposed adding plantings to cover up the barren spot. So I think that's actually sort of a moot issue.
And how about the course?
Right.
Well, that one matches this one.
It's,
so
yeah, these
you're
are
okay.
the same walls.
Okay.
If they add the stuff to the right for their expert, who's put together a package for us, it should theoretically look like what's on the left. And, I think, if we all like what's on the left, we should be getting that on the right then, based on the applicant's proposal.
Yeah.
Comes down to then, clarity is on the sort of the top left wall. I've heard.
Saying the top wall.
Yeah, the top wall is,
But-
I've heard take off one layer, I've heard take off two layers. I've heard raise the grade, up to that wall from the lower tier, but how many inches is that? I think the commission would have to offer some suggestion, but I think ultimately the applicant sort of has to still then kind of decide what you'd like us to.
Well, what we would be seeking is a COA that, and we're very comfortable with the COA that, as you've indicated, is saying would approve subjects to, or provided that, 1, 2, and 3. Or it may be 1A or 1B in the instance of adding grade or removing a top layer. But for example, if either would accomplish,
I think that's be,
I think it's both.
sorry,
that should be both, yeah.
Having one course and adding up, as you then need to make the difference.
Oh,
The segmental block walls, I think they're probably 4 inches, I would guess.
so do you need to do 2 courses?
I would suggest that.
And make the grade come up to the same as the top of the wall.
If possible, yeah.
And this is one of the key landscape architects, so.
is that?
Just lots into that.
So by sort of dropping 2 courses off and raising grade up,
Yeah.
you're
I think
almost
everyone
mimicking
would
what's on the right hand.
Thrilled with that.
And, and I don't think you would, you'll have to talk to your landscape designer, but impacting the health of the flocks. Maybe.
If I could, just as a part of formality, if you would like to participate, I do need you to raise your right hand, then it'd be sworn. Do you swear to tell the truth before the testimony?
I do.
This is Mr. Stevens' wife, Melanie.
I actually need her to acknowledge her.
Sorry,
for
Mr.
record. Sorry.
I do.
Okay,
And my name is Melanie Stevens.
okay, thank you.
My only concern is if we remove 2 rows from the top wall, what happens to the dirt?
Speak into the microphone.
What happens to the dirt at the top and the plants at the top? Do they all die? Does the dirt spill over? I'm not sure what happens if we do that. That doesn't seem like the best course of action to me. Maybe 1 row, but 2 seems like you'd have a lot of spillover. I don't know.
I think that's where you might want to talk to an expert to see, again,
Yeah.
we are just guessing from this 1 or 2 rows, there's 2 opening for 2, I think 1 works, but who knows, right? So I think you get the intent, we want it to look similar to what's on the right in terms of the grade, the way it's sloping.
Yeah.
Seems a little too high, so if you can figure out dropping the chords plus, adding the layer that's below it, adding some dirt and bringing that up so your plants stick. You'll have to figure out, work with your
And
landscape.
we're expecting you to do planting on top of that, right?
Sure.
Yeah. All right.
Like time similar to the other side or?
Again, I don't think we want to trade what. I think you have to come back with what you guys want.
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing is, approval of the plan submitted, subject to or qualified that the applicants would either grade up in front of the top retaining wall or remove a block or both. And I think that you could write that up, and I think we could understand how to implement that
Can you do a motion?
as it's being discussed so far.
Let me propose that we accept the staff's recommendation with the following contingencies that must occur. Omission of, I'm going to say 2 blocks, 2 courses of the retaining wall. And is it just the top retaining wall, or is it the 2 retaining walls as you go up?
The top, I think is.
Just the top? Can you live with that, sir?
Those bottom ones are really pretty visible. And then, yeah, part of the issue is, are they gonna be buried or they're gonna be add bushes?
I think that's the other condition to me, is the planting cover.
I'm going to get there, yeah. So let's say the top.
I, by the way, want you to propose this as a formal motion with the case number with hyphen B, please.
I'm gonna assume that, our good friend Jacqueline's gonna help me there. Do you want me to actually?
Yes, I would like you to make a full motion on it though.
Okay, this is a motion for HR 24-06 015 1734 Brighton Road. This, the commission,
And by the way, this will be case B.
case B, thank you very much.
Thank you.
B,
Because you made it A.
which is the wall stuff. The commission will accept the staff recommendation to approve, will approve the plan with the following contingencies. Removal of 2 courses of the top wall, grading the dirt up to that wall to show a smooth curve, congruent with the, other neighborhood path, profiles of the lawn. And additional plantings to make it feel as though it is a smooth and gradation of vegetation from the curb that we've already agreed to all the way up to the top. Would you like to amend that now?
Well,
I'll
let's,
second it.
I was gonna say, let's get a second.
A second.
So there's a motion
All
and
right,
a
I think we
second,
can
so
discuss.
discussion. And I would also like to, encourage you to comment whether the applicant in this discussion, the applicant has proposed plantings already.
Yes.
If the plantings they've already proposed achieve the goal that you've
All
identified.
right, let me complete the motion then. I think that the commission believes the plantings are headed in the right direction, but we need a planting table as described by Ms. Baba, to include the plant, common name, the plant, formal name, the coverage and the size and the what? Height and spread.
Okay, so the motion,
The second also approves.
okay, the second is also okay with that, okay. So having an amended motion, further discussion.
Are there other thoughts?
Is there any,
I have one thing, I think, to your point earlier, some description of your maintenance plan for that, so it is part of the application is important. So I would propose to amend the motion to include a maintenance plan of some testimony.
Do we have a sample to give them of a maintenance plan that we've accepted in the past?
so I would defer to staff, we have had this request for a planted chart with spreads and species specific. Do we have an example that could be provided?
Yeah, we can provide an example of that plan, with Commissioner Hunt's White. I don't know if I recall the maintenance time for the plants, but if the commissioner does, we can certainly locate that. Or if we need further clarification, just say particulars of maintenance plans, so we know we're on the same page.
And your intent, Matt, is that this protects the property going forward should this owner move to make sure that future
That's
people have that responsibility, future owners.
It's,
Right, because in terms if it is not maintained, then this, we would not approve this. Like, it's not.
To maintain the coverage of the wall with plant material specifically.
I would accept that amendment.
So do I.
okay. So I will ask staff, do you feel that this is clear for motion to carry out an exercise in your opinion?
I do, I'm clear.
Okay. And
I also think that if you needed to consult with two commissioners, we could probably pick two landscape architects to help you with that final approval.
Want to qualify the connector. In terms of precedent, I would like to make it my own personal statement on precedent.
With vote, you could qualify your vote. So Michael's question is just on being able to qualify any position when a vote would be taken. You absolutely, and if this commission so chooses, we can, instead of a unanimous yay and nay, we can do a roll call vote, and you can choose to acknowledge your position very clearly, especially in a case like this where it may not be unanimous voting one way or another. It's always good to hear the no's and why you voted no. Just know that whatever you are voting should just be consistent truly with what the guidelines say. So I would also quickly just defer back to the applicant. Do you have any concerns about the motion that's currently on the floor? Do you feel it achieves what you were hoping to look for as far as some of the dialogue here? Is there anything alarming to you in our conditions so far that have discussed?
We would ask, and I think this is the case, but we would just ask that the motion be to issue a certificate, a COA, subject to all of these conditions that then run our continuing obligations of the COA, in which case the way it works in our understanding would be if those conditions weren't met in the future, they would be in violation of the COA, whether it's a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So what we're seeking then is approval with these caveats, not come back with another plan that includes these caveats.
Correct. I think
Okay.
right now, the motion on the floor is that all those conditions would be a follow-up that you would just address with staff to provide the supplemental
Yeah,
information.
And then,
Yeah.
what I may seek, within that context, if possible, if there's the capacity for some flexibility, the homeowners have some concern, and I would like to direct the attention of the commission to the top sidewalk, at the top of the steps there, where there's the sidewalk before the steps up to the porch. That picture was fine. So the space between the steps off of the street, there's a walkway and then there's the second amount of steps. So I'm seeing the grass behind the bushes there, those are boxwoods, the green boxwoods. And I'm seeing how high that part of the lawn is. And then I'm looking at how low this retaining wall would go if 2 pavers were removed. And I'm wondering if there's a capacity for them to remove 1 row and provide some sort of depiction to the commission to say, hey, maybe removing 2 more rows is lower than we thought. Actually creates sort of an unnatural drop off. I just think that 2 rows might end up being quite a bit more than you envision once you were to see it. I have some concerns about that based upon how high the lawn is there. Now, maybe that's exactly what the commission is trying to accomplish, in which case understood. I just want to make sure that you're aware of that in suggesting the removal of the top 2 rows instead of just 1. Because one may be more than adequate to do the trick, and 2 you may have mud or other things sort of coming out over the top of the top wall at that point.
Would the idea of an amendment to the motion be that we could allow staff to approve with approval of two of our landscape architects, connecting with staff. Maybe you could remove a block or a couple blocks, and staff and the two landscape architects could then look at it simply with you to address that, resolve that, find a mutually agreeable, if that works.
So it makes, yeah, I think that makes more sense, just to make sure.
Yeah.
These are fairly big, these are fairly large pavers.
So maybe Cynthia, if you would recommend an amendment to your motion and stipulate the two landscape architects who could be the committee with staff.
Oh, I get to choose?
No, I think we have very few landscape architects on this commission.
I know one, who's a landscape architect. Are you officially a landscape architect? All right. I would be happy to stipulate that. I'd be happy to amend the motion to say 1 or 2 blocks, contingent on staff approval and staff being advised by the 2 landscape architects. So, excuse me, designers, thank you. Landscape designers, do you think of yourself? Okay, I got Ross. No, I'm not one. 2 landscape designers who exist on the community in an advisory capacity to staff. Okay, so they'll probably show up and look at what it looks like and give you their best feedback.
I agree as well.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, it's the motion of the second. Okay with that? Staff, you're okay with this?
Yes, this would be subcommittee.
Subcommittee, yep, under motion, yep. And you have then the ability to approve that on our behalf. That okay with the applicant as well? Okay. Any further dialogue or discussion?
I guess I'll just clarify for the applicant that a subcommittee is typically giving email the documents, and then staff gives the subcommittee commissioners at least a week to respond. And then, as soon as we get responses back and everything's okay and good to go, then we can issue the COA.
But it might require a visit for photograph and or photographs, depending on looking at the options.
Yes, I will inspect the materials, so it could be photographs or something demonstrating the conditions as described.
Hearing no other further discussion, because there's been a request to make a commentary on a position or a vote. If it's okay, I'm going to go move to have an actual roll call vote here of this commission, as opposed to just a yay or a nay. So going down the list here, hearing no further discussion to the vote, starting on the commission, Commissioner Bava,
Yay.
Commissioner Foray.
Since we're making qualifications as well.
Yes, you can give your opinion.
Vote yay. What I'd like to go on record and say, that yay is specifically based upon what was presented today and not what was presented in 2018 and was rejected by the commission.
Commissioner Henry.
I believe this is far better,
Yay or nay?
but it is going to be a nay because it still has the lower retaining walls that we have never approved in the past.
Commissioner Hunt.
I am going to say yay with the same caveats offered by the earlier commissioner. I believe it's the point in time today that we are evaluating.
Okay, Commissioner Leisure.
Vote yay with caveat as commissioner for it.
Okay. Myself, Commissioner McCabe, nay, based on the condition of the wall being sort of precedent setting and the struggles with sort of this is kind of a Band-Aid or Band-Aid approach to solve a problem. Commissioner Sinha.
Yay, noting that it's extremely important that the maintenance persists just the way it is now. The maintenance goes haywire, and this is not the intent.
Commissioner Gibney. Nay. So there is clearly a majority here for you, so your motion passes. Thank you. Just work with staff to follow up here, and they will issue your certificate of appropriateness. Thank you.
Thank you.
And by the way, thank you for your patience. It's a big case for us.
We appreciate your time. We're going to have a multi-day trial in a few weeks if we didn't spend an hour on this now. So thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to case number 6, 330 Loeffler Avenue. We have an applicant here this evening. No. We will pause on case number 6. We'll go on to, case number 7 was moved to staff. Case number 8, 651 Wilson Avenue. Here this evening, we'll come back to that. Going on to case number 9, 686 South Champion Avenue. A lot of folks not here.
686 South Champion.
Case number 10, 663 Oakwood Avenue.
That's me. 663, that's me.
Yep, okay, go on forward. Great. If you could raise your right hand before you take a seat. Swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening.
I do.
State your full name and association with the property for record.
Joshua Tomey, architect.
Wonderful, thank you. Have a seat.
This application for 663 Oakwood Avenue is proposing a new dormer, and then there would be a new shed dormer at the north elevation to create access to the attic. The dormer would be sided with 3-inch wood lap siding to match the profile of the main building. The roofing would be the CertainTeed asphalt shingle, nickel gray from the approved shingles list, and the windows would be Pellet. So the June 6th business meeting, the commission asked the applicant to make sure that the corner trims fall down to match the other siding trim. The commission noted that the appropriate overhang would be at least 1 foot at the sides of the dormer as well as the front. The commission requested a section drawing, and the commission noted that the overall concept is fine and that the setback location helps to reduce the impact of the alteration. So in response to business meeting feedback, the applicant has submitted a section drawing and revised drawings showing additional overhang at the sides and additional trim at the corner of the drawing. The staff recommendation is to recommend approval of application HR 24-06-019-663 Oakwood Avenue, Gold Oaks Historic District as submitted, with any and all clarifications to be submitted to HBO staff for review and approval prior to issuing substitute. That staff recommendation is based on the city code 316.11 stairs for alteration, specifically numbers 9, 10, 11, and 12, as well as the guidelines regarding dormers on page 48. Thank you.
Does the applicant want to add anything?
No, we revised as directed during the staff meeting.
Okay. Any comments from the commission?
We pretty routinely approve these. I make a motion to approve HR 2406 -019 663 Old Oaks Avenue.
Second. Oakwood Avenue.
Oakwood Avenue.
There's a motion and there's a second. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes. Okay, and I think you are also on for the next one, and so just for moving on to that next case here as well, which is 605 South Champion Avenue. If you can,
Swear. No.
yep, no, I don't need to swear you again, you already did that once. Just affirm and confirm your association with the property for record.
I'm the architect for this property.
Great, Oscar. Okay, thank you. Jacqueline?
Okay, so this application for 605 South Champion is proposing to replace a second-story railing with new. And there's some other items for the porch, such as concrete steps, porch ceiling, removing paper and stone, installing ceiling mounting fixture, and installing house numbers. This also includes a proposal for the rear porch to replace a 2-story access metal stairs and ground floor stairs with new wood stairs and porch system. Again, we replacing porch ceiling at both levels, ceiling panels, removing paper and stone, installing ceiling mounting fixtures. So a 2-story wood frame front and rear porch appear on the 1951 and the 1961 Sanford maps. Photos from 1997 and the circa around the early 2000s confirm that the current front and rear porches are not original in their current day. So at the June 6th business meeting, the commission noted that they were okay with moving the roofing, siding, window, door, and site items to staff approval with final materials to be submitted to staff. And then the commission requested additional detail on the paneling of the proposed front porch with section and measurements. And the commission requested additional detailed drawings of rear steps. So in response to the business meeting feedback, the applicant has submitted additional drawings of the front porch paneling as well as the rear steps. So the staff recommendation is to recommend approval of application HR 24-06020 at 605 South Channing Avenue in the Old West Historic District as submitted, with any and all clarifications to be submitted to HBO staff for review and approval prior to issue of certificate. And that the basis for the staff recommendation is the City Code 306.11 standards for alteration, specifically numbers 6, 9, and 12, and the guidelines regarding portraits and students on pages 18 and 19.
The applicant like to add anything?
We provide additional detailing for the front railing and back railing to make it more apparent, as requested.
Sure did. Is there any comments from the commission? Motion?
I move HR 24-06-020B, 605 South Champion Avenue, for approval. As submitted.
I'll second. Having a motion and a second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, abstention, motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
On to case number 12, that be 1070 South Front Street. Before you get seated, we'll swear you in. Do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening?
I do.
And if you could state your full name and association with the property.
Juliet Bullock, and I'm the project architect.
Wonderful, thank you. Jacqueline.
This application, so the view is 1070 South Front Street, and the current addresses are 1080, 1080, 1086, and 1088 South Front Street. This is a request for action. So previously we saw a conceptual application review. And the proposal would be constructing a 2.5-story 4-unit building with a garage on the south side of the parcel. The materials would include gentleman sightline casement windows, sightline full-length doors, board siding with a 5.5-inch reveal, and that siding would be smooth texture. The body of the home would be the purpose color, and then the trim color would be the felted wool. Windows would be black, with main roofing to be the Owen Corning's 3-cut state grade asphalt shingles with improved shingles list, and the entry hood roofing to be standing seam metal. A landscape plan would be submitted for future HRC review. So an application for new construction was previously approved on this parcel in 2006 prior to new construction for a vacant lot. The new construction approved at that time was never built, however, and the applicant is returning with alterations to that 2006 design. The lot is currently in current iteration serving as a garden situated adjacent and immediately south of a historic building that has been moved to the site in 2006 and is also north of the gas station. So an application for a variance recommendation and conceptual review was recommended at a conceptual review as a March 21st hearing of this year by the HRC. And the application for various recommendations from so for in 2006 was previously recommended and previously approved in 2006. So the June 6th business meeting, the commission noted that the proposal looks consistent overall with the conceptual review feedback. The commission mentioned the one thing that may be of note is in the section drawings, overhangs call for only 8-inch overhangs, but the commission typically looks for 12-inch overhangs, and the commission noted they assessed further at the hearing. The applicant has submitted an updated drawing revising the kitchen windows for placements to double on one of the windows. And in general, staff recommends approval of application HR 24-06-021 1070 South Front Street and the Brewery District, with the condition that the overhang sizes are updated to the 1 foot requested by the commission. The basis for that staff recommendation is the City Code 6.12 standards for new construction. And that is it. So I'll turn it back over to
Would the applicant like to add anything before we start?
I'll just answer any questions anyone might have.
And are you all right with the staff made a recommendation
Yes.
about extending the overhangs to be of a greater dimension?
That's fine.
Okay, great. Just want to confirm conditions.
Yes, and the condition of bringing back a landscape plan as well.
Yeah. Okay, great. So there's 2 conditions out there. Staff is recommended they implement the 2, but I will open the floor up to other comments here from commissioners. I think there's probably 2 commissioners who know this site better, so I look forward to your feedback.
I'll just start with the landscape plans, but just as we had previous discussion, that should include species, existing plant materials, sizes, et cetera, just so we're clear about what a landscape plan.
And he had contracted with a landscape person that I thought was going to supply that, and it wasn't sufficient. So what I did is just document kind of the existing on the first page of the proposal. And it's my intention to give this to the landscape architect and have them basically detail it out, so. We're working on it.
I want to go on record as a former member of the Brewery District Commission. Brewery District, as a historic district, is probably the least homogeneous of the historic districts out there. We, when the Brewery District Commission was in existence, we tried hard to push modern design where it made sense to offer variety and interest in the neighborhood. Last time we spoke on this at the meeting that I was at, I expressed that opinion. I still feel the same way. So even though I'm happy with the changes that we made, I think they're quality additions. I still would love to see something more creative here.
Yeah, my client is pretty traditional.
I'm making statements.
Yeah, yeah. So that's been my challenge, frankly. So,
Curious for clarification's sake, the image that we're looking at right now, the streetscape view.
Yeah.
Looks like there's a cropped image, which is in the lower right. It almost looks like a scan or something like that.
that's the existing building.
That's the existing.
The one that's in the middle on the bottom is the existing building. And one of the biggest, I guess, one of the feedback I got at the last meeting was the proportions of that existing building windows are very vertical.
Yeah.
So that was the major change. I
Right.
tried to find an egress window.
So just for clarity, the image on the far bottom right is the proposed
Yes.
scale.
Yes,
portions.
showing that, yeah.
And that's the same scale as the streetscape image of the
Yes,
existing.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's about a foot shorter than what was originally approved by the Brewery District. Just, I guess it was a little too tall before for code.
So it looks like the height in terms of compatibility of this building, just a little bit taller than the existing condition, or a little bit shorter than the existing.
Yes, that was the intention. It's about, I think, 5 feet, 6 feet shorter. I mean,
Okay. Thanks for clarifying.
No other further discussion. Is there a motion here?
For HR 2406-020B, 605 South Champion Avenue. Move to approve the application. Is that the right one?
No, it's
That is not the right one.
It's Front Street.
Sorry about that.
That's good.
Regarding HR 2406-021. Previously reviewed as 1070 South Front Street, which is now 1078, 1080, 1086, and 1088 South Front Street. Make a motion to approve with the following comments incorporated that allow for the proper 12-inch overhangs
Inclusion of ones.
and the inclusion of the landscape plan, which shows detail in terms of the common name, scientific name, location of all plants, and their spreads and heights.
That's a future review.
Sorry.
Oh, is that for coming back for future review?
To be coordinated with staff. I think we're fine with this going to staff.
I think it should come as a separate application.
Oh, okay, so we want to break out part A.
Yeah.
What is the motion?
Well, let's break out the motion just for the everything aside from the landscape will be a part A.
Okay.
Second.
Make a motion in a second. And any further discussion?
Second on A.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, okay, motion passes.
And for part B, like to make a motion to continue the landscape portion of this application, including common name, scientific name, all locations of plants, their spreads and their heights clearly delineated, to be brought before the commission at a future date.
Second.
Having a motion and a second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Moving on to, before we get on to the conceptual applications here, if I could just backtrack for a minute on the old applications. Was there anybody here for 330 Loeffler Avenue? No. Okay, and who are you here for? Sorry.
651 Wilson.
Listen.
651 Wilson, yes. I think you were maybe not in the room at the time, so if you want to come forward on that. No, what is that? It's number 8. Sure. Okay, before you get seated, I will ask you to raise your right hand real quick. You swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening.
Yes.
If you could state your full name and association with the property for record.
Karina Smith, I'm the granddaughter, the granddaughter of the original owner, the daughter of the current owner.
Okay.
Daughter
Authorized.
and niece.
Okay, great.
But I will be the owner eventually.
Yeah.
Okay, so this application for 691 Wilson Avenue is a result of a code violation, and then an application for tuck pointing and cleaning masonry has followed and established separately. So the application is to repair the porch and replace the porch screen with new, and to replace the non-historic steps and step railings with new, and repair and repaint the porch balustrade. Landscaping to install plantings at the front yard, to repaint exterior painted stone, and to repair and repaint soffits and exterior wood. And then the garage appears to have existing wood siding that has been replaced with new final wood grade siding. So at the June 6th business meeting, the commissioners present noted that they are okay with retaining the porch screen, provided that this will be painted. And then also noted that assuming plantings will likely obscure some of the skirting, and asked if the plan is to add mounting in front of the skirting for plantings. The commission asked that the applicant could provide a landscape plan addressing proposed landscaping. The commission asked if to provide which areas of stone will be painted, and want to clarify that any unpainted stone will be painted. The commission asked if the applicant could provide additional photos of the garage, and asked if any other modifications had taken place. The commission noted that the metal balusters are more of a contemporary style that are out of character in the home, and would be okay for retaining the new stairs and just replacing the balusters. The commission recommended taking a look at the example in the guidelines. So in response to the business meeting feedback, the applicant has provided an updated photo noting that they have installed vertical slats at the front of the porch skirting to match the neighboring porch skirting, and then they have painted the porch skirting, step risers, porch step railing posts, and balusters black. The applicant plans to update the flower beds with new flowers and bushes, and the applicant has clarified that the stone has all been previously painted for many years. So staff recommends continuing the application HR 240607 651 Wilson Avenue in the Old Historic District. Allow the applicant time to revise the application to meet city code and New Jersey guidelines. And that basis for the recommendation is based on the city code 316.11 standards for alteration, specifically numbers 1, 2, 6, 11, and 12. And the guidelines regarding porches and stoops on pages 18 and 19. Wood siding on pages 22 to 23. And aluminum vinyl siding on pages 24 to 25, roads and outbuildings on pages 86 to 87, as well as the amendments to the City of Columbus Architectural Review Commission guidelines regarding artificial siding on page 7, and the required specification for approval of artificial siding on also page 7. And thank you.
Thank you. What would the applicant like to add at this time? There's a recommendation to simply continuing, but
So just to, well, you said to add.
yeah, what would you like to tell us additionally?
Okay,
Who's the
well,
first?
one, just to kind of go back, you were asked or making reference about the garage. I didn't do anything to the garage. The garage has been like that. My grandfather and uncle were living, so, and they lived in the house originally. I have no clue who did it, what they did, because it's been like that for, maybe you can go, I didn't see your listing, but The older garage, what year was that? In 17? So it could have been 18. I honest to God do not know when it was redone by my grandfather.
Unfortunately, even though you don't know, a change that was not approved is still an issue.
I wouldn't even know if it was approved or not. I don't,
Right, well, I think staff is confirming though that we don't have a certificate of appropriateness for the vinyl site
Okay.
installation. So that is something that unfortunately, although you did not do it, you have a property where there's been a scenario where the work is not compliant, doesn't have a certificate of authority. So the garage, you're gonna have to sort of come up with a plan for about how you would like to remedy the issue.
even though it was already done
It was already a historic district by 2017.
Yeah.
and no one said anything to my family?
Yeah.
Installed about 2021.
I'm sorry?
It looks like the siding has been installed around 2021. So it's recent enough where, yeah, we would have to address the issue.
Hmm.
Can we?
Even though it was done, it doesn't make it.
I have no clue. I would have to, my uncle that lived there passed away along with my grandparents, and I would have to defer to my older uncle, who doesn't even live here, to see if he knows, but what would be the rectification? What needs to be done?
Well, a certificate of appropriateness would need to be obtained.
I don't even know what to ask for, because I don't know what they did.
It's basically, there was work done that didn't have a permit or an approval.
I don't know.
Well, so in 2017, there was a certain garage condition. If work had been done according to the way it should be done, then the city would have a record of a permit issued. The permit was not issued. So I appreciate that you might not be aware, but we are going by city records. Unless you can disprove it, that's what's going to stand. And that means there were no records and work was done, which means now you have to go through the process of getting a permit. As it stands today.
We have a picture of the garage. I think.
Well,
So I'm being, or my mom owns it, I'm here because she can hardly walk. I barely am walking. So we're being penalized for something that my grandfather, who, again, let me also say, has been the original owner before a historical district even was thought of. Okay, he would know nothing about getting authorization or what this committee represents. Because they live there, they're actually, them and the Jacksons that live next door are the original owners of the entire street. At the entire neighborhood, Mrs. Whitman started the association.
Like, we
So-
understand you may be an original owner, but it doesn't mean that laws haven't changed or been adopted.
And I would say, would the governor say that for someone like my grandfather who, I mean, I don't know what they did. I've been saying that because I really don't know. But I don't, I do have property, so I do know about going to get code. I actually had one on Oakwood, to be honest, a few years ago. So I know about getting code. So now you're talking about getting code for this.
So not just only the garage, but I mean, I think this is the result of a code, the whole case is a result of code, right?
And again,
Porch.
Oakwood on the other side, maybe that's not a historical, because I didn't have to go to a committee to do, I got permits, but I didn't have to do this. So this is new, totally new. And I understand the current, but the garage had nothing to do with that, and then that's being added. So now I'm
The garage is
confused.
within the historic district.
No, I know. What I'm saying is originally when this was brought to me, the question was about us fixing the porch and the landscaping. Now the garage is being questioned, and that's something that I never even touched.
I never made any changes
Again,
to,
we understand that, but obviously, we can see right here, there's vinyl siding on it that looks.
I'm not denying that he didn't have work done, but again, actually, he also had the garage door, a new door put up because the other one was broken. I know that the work was done. I don't know, I can't remember when it was done or who did it or. nothing,
We
because-
don't dispute you, we're not blaming you for that, but what we are saying is that you probably need to go through the process of taking some time to come back with, we don't even have photos, I think, of all sides of the garage, I think would be a good starting point. And there needs to be a solution, obviously, that, needs to be addressed here. That's just one thing, we can talk about all the other items. I think you've started to make progress. It looks like the porch skirt has already been modified, you've done some painting and some other things. So let's look at all the things you probably have done right too, to see if there's some things we can kind of get out of the queue.
For clarification, how long has the district been a historical district, do you know offhand?
It likely would have been late 80s, early 90s.
Okay, so that means even if it was as late as the nineties, that work was obviously done after the nineties because of the materials that were used.
And again, I don't know, wasn't living there. I'm kind of, because I was in high school. I don't remember no one in my family ever having to go through any of this too.
No,
And they've done things around the house.
right, that's the problem.
So when you.
They didn't go through it and they should have. That's,
I guess I'm wondering, how would they know to go through it? Or no one's ever said to my grandmother who would plant flowers, hey, you're not supposed to do that. I mean, I'm just kind of surprised that, because you said it was the 90s. I'm taken back here, to be quiet.
When all these districts, I think, were adopted by city, they were adopted by city council, they would have notified property owners. There would have been a process where there would have been a public hearing and people would have been notified about a public hearing and they would have had to go, we get many homes from this neighborhood where people are fully aware that it is a district. Now, likewise, though, whomever was your contractor who did the steps and some handrails should have also known to go get a building permit.
That was on, again, that's on my guys, or actually he's like family to family, and he did that. I didn't know, because again.
Because as soon as they go to get.
My grandparents didn't know.
As soon as they go to go get a building permit, the permit department here would say, oh, you need a certificate of appropriateness, and then they would actually redirect you.
Yeah.
To that appropriately. So we understand there may be, we're not finding fault in you for this, except for that it needs to be made right. And so there's pieces here that we can probably work with you on this evening, but there's things obviously you're gonna have to take time to come back as the applicant, provide a solution for.
For the porch, my understanding of the permit was if it was an entirely new structure, and it's not.
It's all exterior and all alterations are covered in the district.
For the appropriateness, but when you were saying that that I would need a permit, or you're saying a permit for the appropriateness?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I thought you meant permit to build the different permit that I thought you were speaking of. So I'm hearing you in regards to the garage, which is a shocker.
Now, there may be some siding intact beneath, so if you could do some exploratory removal, kind of get an idea what the condition is, if it's already there and existing. So just something to, kind of take a look, see what's under there, is it intact? Is there something that could just be repainted, sprayed? It might be as simple as that.
I would think taking the garage aside, because I think that's the one that we have the least amount of information on.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be good if you come back with supplying staff with pictures of the full outside and full inside. Show us what it is today, and let's see if we can help work with you to identify a solution. Because we're not going to work through a solution tonight, not having enough pictures of even what the garage is.
Sure, Jim, let's point about just checking underneath to see if the siding is still there. If it's still there, like it's a lot easier.
The wood?
Yeah. underneath that siding.
Yes.
So when you do your pictures, just lift up a couple and see what it looks like.
Okay. Or the inside, could you tell if it's,
It's not the same way as outside. We need both pictures.
okay.
Okay.
It would be helpful though. You're right. You can kind of see some stuff.
Well, I can tell you from this, that there's wood there, it hasn't, I mean, but I don't know the outside, I know what the inside looks like, but I can't tell you.
We're focused on the outside.
Is the vinyl siding on all sides of the garage or just on that one side?
Nope, it's
All three.
around
All three sides, okay.
So again, I would.
the garage leaks, so I know the thing happened.
I would start with just coming back with information on that. That's, we can simply continue that part of this.
So your point about maybe on some of the other points we can actually.
Yeah, I mean, because it looks like when I go to picture number 1, by the way, it looks like the garage skirting you've amended really nicely, putting the vertical slats in and it's been painted up. And that, I think that's a very good look. That looks.
Well, I thought you guys wanted that, but then I think
Yeah,
somebody,
this is good.
What-
Give me-
well,
but then somebody said you didn't have to do that, so like,
It's the recommendation, I think we recommend just make sure to get that approval, that piece of paper before, that way you know you're good to go, good to proceed.
I was just following what was on the list.
Now, I think what is still sort of problematic is the balusters that are, the rails themselves, in the actual railing.
Metal.
Yeah, the
rails
metal
that
is,
are
I think,
between
out
top and
of
bottom
context
with
for,
handrails going up.
that to me is the thing that doesn't look historic, and that's the
I'm
issue.
sorry, the,
The metal, there's metal in between bottom wood and the top wood.
Yeah.
On the arm rail.
So these components, these spindle pieces right here, these are metal. Those are
They
not
were-
in keeping with the historic description.
even
Those
though
need
they
to be
match the metal down below?
Or metal down below.
Here's another set of stairs, like 2 or 3 steps.
Going up the stairs?
Down the yard.
Yeah.
But is that a fully, yeah, there's a full wrought iron railing down below. But
And we
then,
painted it black to match. I thought that would,
but then I think if, had you come to the commission, we probably would have suggested, like, if that's the look you want, you probably should do a wrought iron railing, not wood sandwiched with metal.
honest, to be 100% honest, the guy who did it, he just did it.
Right.
But to kind of, I guess, align, I mean, I like black anyway, so I wanted the bottom black, and I just said, well, paint the whole thing black, and then it blends in. To just make it blend in with everything, so it doesn't stand out.
Just the, for me, again, I'm only one voice in the commission, the pickets don't look appropriate to me, but somebody else here may find.
What are the pickets?
That's the piece in the round, that's the metal piece in the round.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out an easy.
Can you show the black, with it black, please?
Yeah.
The one above, the more recent. The top, yeah. Well, I don't know. Can you even tell? From the street?
Yeah.
We know.
But from the street, because that's really what you're gonna look at from the street.
I don't, I guess there's this second, is that a stainless steel rail or a handle?
Oh, that's gonna be black too. He just hadn't that. See, it was, the instructions was just to paint paint the bottom black, because that's what I wanted. I was trying to visualize what to paint the rest of the porch. So I was doing it in stages. He actually painted the top part gray a little bit. I don't like it, so that's gonna be repainted, but you guys have a picture of that. That's neither here nor there. But anyways, it's gonna be black. So that whole piece area is gonna be black. Where that stone is, where that's white or cream, I was gonna continue, it's more like a cream color that I bought to try to match stone, I guess.
Yeah, the stone, which you said it has been previously painted. So that should be painted a stone color.
Yeah, that's what they told me. So I got
Yeah.
like the cream stone color.
Yes, we'll just, need to know the particular paint information, so if you've already gone and bought it, you can send to make sure, the paint label, or if you know, website or a little physical paint card?
Yeah, it's from,
You can send to us.
It's basically changing the rails,
do I still have to change it even though it's black?
gotta change them from metal.
I would even call whether black is a historically correct color for this district or this house. I mean, it's, I know it's.
The other houses are that, that's the only reason why I said, well, let me pick something that's in the area, so I thought black would be safe because.
In the area or in the district?
No, on the street. Somebody else did it, so that's all the reason why I picked, I said, well, I like black, so that's why I did the black.
I'd like to make a suggestion. I think we've had a good dialogue just in terms of some of the understanding of the issues, but what I'm struggling with right now is it sounds like the work is in process. And what we have before us is a partial picture of the existing condition and
That's
what
it, right there.
it sounds like you're gonna continue,
Oh, yeah.
you're gonna continue to paint, and I'm not sure what other work there is that's being proposed, and that's typically how our commission would work, is we would look at a proposal and then discuss the proposal. So I think what's before us here, before the work happens, and so I think what might be helpful is if we continued, and if you outlined more specifically what the intention of the design ultimately is, then we wouldn't speculate as much about what could be or what could not be. There would actually be a documented proposal in front of us that we could make comments on.
And that way you wouldn't install something or do something that doesn't work or make sense. You'd be able to say to us, here's my intention, and we could say, oops, no, can't do that after this, before you actually execute.
Or what you're thinking is good. So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to look at that, but we're here to consider your ideas, not necessarily give you ideas.
And in the meantime, you can always coordinate with Jacqueline as well, if you wanted to get some feedback about what's appropriate or not based upon the guidelines that we make our judgments on. So
In regards, one question, in regards to the landscaping piece, I didn't create any new beds or anything. We just put the barrier down and just replanted plants. I know you guys said you wanted I'm not very good at drawing. I could try, but that's pretty much. I mean, those are already there. There's houses around that they've always had houses. We just took them up to put the barrier, put them back in, mulching. Rich did add a couple of pieces of rocks for that he found in the yard. But I didn't do anything extra.
I think the question we had was, is in this picture on page 3. It looked like you were in the middle of, keep zooming out here, all of that work down there.
Yeah, that was
New, that's new work.
No, look at the other, that was already there. We put the barrier down, but that was already.
But those are all brand new plants, are they not?
Yeah, he actually, well, yeah, those are new, but there were plants there. No, there were plants there. You can go back to, I mean, if you don't have those pictures. But that bed area was already there. He pulled them up to put new barrier down, and then I did buy new plants, but they're comparable to what was already there, because some of the ones that were there were dead.
So, I mean, could this be a case of like for like, that we permitted? I mean, like,
Makes sense to me.
if someone's replacing them the same thing, we.
That doesn't look like for like me.
Do you see the bushes?
But
There's some yellow.
when you took out maybe 2 bushes and there's a lot going back, so I think what we need to do is make sure all applicants are treated fairly, though.
No, can you see it from the, sorry.
I can, yeah, I see that there's 2 bushes there.
No, it's more than 2 bushes.
Okay,
I promise, there were flowers in that area.
Yeah, here we go. Here we go.
Okay.
It has to do before an older photo, so there's, yeah. There,
And it was
there's
more than,
2 bushes.
depending on what year you're looking at.
Yeah. We zoom in just a little bit, please.
I think the issue is we just need careful documentation of like what used to be there and what you're intending to go there now. I know you're showing us that in like with the images, and we can see the plans, the containers that you purchased, but possibly working with a, design center or something like that, just to get a very simple drawing or layout of. like,
Do they
all the
do
different
that, the
plans.
design center?
Yeah, the different nurseries will do that for you. You just have to work with someone and they'll be able to help you. out.
Or honestly, in this case, if you have the plants still in the buckets,
The buckets say what
they tell you everything right on them.
that little tag.
That if you could just literally make a little 8.5 by 11 and show in circles where they are and tell us what was put where and give us the info off the plant and species. It tells you how big it'll grow, height wise, how wide it'll
Everything
grow,
by little
aperture.
makes it easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, just going back to what the commissioners were talking about earlier, it's just like thorough documentation. So
Right.
paint colors, where is the paint going, what part of the building, how high, where are you
Right.
intending, what kind of wood materials are you using? So like as much information as you can bring with your intentions to the next time that would be.
Before you do it.
Before you do it.
Well, those are already done, because I didn't know that,
So then
so,
you will have to provide us documentation of what you did.
yeah.
That's,
And I didn't know that
Okay.
landscaping, because no, again, when they came to me originally, it was about the porch. It wasn't about the flowers that we were planting. The code officer that came out, yeah, she never said anything about the flowers.
we urge you and staff can provide you a link to the historic district regulations online. You may
Yeah.
want to read through those. That gives you a pretty comprehensive review. As well as if you have any questions on the thoroughness of what needs to come back, please work with staff. They can give you guidance on making an application. The more thorough the application, the quicker we can get through it. And there's pieces of this that probably can go quicker than others.
And so overall here, less concerned about the actual landscaping, it's just more of the documentation. Painting to match the original stone colors, sounds great, we just need what paint colors those will be and where they will go. And then for the porch, it sounds like the main concern is just those metal railings within the wood, because there's a mix of materials. So possibly resolving, through proposed wooden pickets, those tall panels. Or you want to propose all metal like wrought iron, that could maybe be considered, it's just up to you, just one or the other, or what you like to do.
Is that still a concern though, because it's black?
It is because it's a mix of materials, so it's a more contemporary style, and popular style right now, but it doesn't basically mesh or go with the historic building. The commission's charged with keeping that historic character, so that's why it's the concern. Less of the matching color, that's great. It just is that mix of materials, and I wanted to keep that compatibility. So that example of the guidelines, that's just one example of a porch that would work with this kind of home. But something similar could work with, the wood post. The overall wood portions, they look fine, but the metal pieces kind of take it out and bring it to more contemporary era.
Is the only other comment about that, because that's more work, and honestly, don't want to redo work, if I don't have to. There's, other, again, comparable to the area, they have that look. So just wondering if,
There may,
especially if it's painted black, we probably really can't tell.
there may be some others that are out there that either were put in without approval, it's just for a code, or it would be a code violation. So what we're looking for is compatible to the building itself, its age and its style. And a simple, wood railings would be fine for this, it's not competing with the building, but that mix of materials, it's just too much of a contemporary style that takes it out, even with matching color, because it has that modern mix. So if there's any way to, let's say if you want to keep the wood post and the wood railings, and if you're able to put the wood balusters, those vertical wood pieces in instead, that might be a solution. There could be a couple of things, so you want to just kind of look into it, see, you can provide more than one option as well if the commission can consider. Just right now, And I think it would be difficult for the commission to be able to approve the mix of materials.
I'd like to make a motion, so for. Regarding application HR 24-06-017, 651 Wilson Avenue, Old Oaks. To continue the application to allow applicant time to revise application to meet city code and historic guidelines.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes. So just work with, what I would encourage you to do is just, for whatever you can chip away at and your timeline, just stay in touch with Jacqueline about your timeline. That's the most critical thing, by the way, for any code issue, is to know that you two are in dialogue. It's one of the biggest things.
Well, because I won't remember, will somebody send me something? Because I didn't take, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay, yeah, so I'll send, within a few, like, business days, so probably next week, I'll send a hearing letter, which will have a summary of the points. And then this is also streams, I can also send you a YouTube link, so if you want to read, but also hear, listen to it, you can do that as well. And then, so for continued application, if you wanted to get on the very next agenda, you would have a week. So it would be next Friday, you have an extended week to submit. If you want more time, that's fine too. You can submit for a following hearing. It's just if you plan to submit that early. So you'll get that hearing letter. I can send you that link of the YouTube of today's meeting. So you have both what I've written, our part, and then that visual for the audio that you can refer to.
The audio of this.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
It is looking good though. Keep up the good work.
Okay.
We just gotta get it in. So it's more historical fabric, right?
Yeah, and just want to make sure we got your plans before you do anything. That way we, that you're good to go. And so when we start the work, that we can proceed and you don't have to like redo anything.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
And before we go through the next one, is there anybody here for 686 South Champion Avenue? 686 South Avenue? No, okay. We're going to then skip, so there's two, we'll come back at the very end to see if there's anybody in, if not, we'll continue those. So now on to conceptual applications, 162 West Jeffrey Place, come on up. If you could both raise your right hand, do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony for the commission this evening? I do. If you could both state your full name and association for property record.
Diane Nance, owner.
Rod Boats, owner. Water, thank you. Thanks.
This application for 160 West Jeffrey Place is conceptual and it's proposing new construction of a new shed or outbuilding. And so that would be installed in the northeast and rear of the property. The shed would be approximately 10 by 12 feet using stonework and repurposed windows and doors. And the shed would include, possibly include a hardscape apron or van. So the June 6th business meeting, the commission asked if the applicant could include photos of the main house and garage, but it would be helpful to confirm that those shed structure will be compatible with those. The commission recommended the applicant eventually confirm with building and zoning department that the setback will meet zoning requirements, with the condition that there is those two roads and garage structure on the property, so double checking that. The commission asked if the applicant could provide a measured site plan of any proposed pathways. And the commission noted that they will eventually need to review measured drawings that include the details of the dimensions, overhangs, trim work, and things like that. And if the repurposed doors and windows will fit proportionally to the new structure. So the recommendations is the conceptual application is that the commissioners should offer design feedback that can be utilized by the applicant to further refine proposal for future HR so no action is required. The basis for the staff recommendation is 316.1 and 12, or 1.2 rather, for standards for new construction, and the guidelines regarding garages and outbuildings, which are on page 6 and 7.
Thank you. What would the applicant like to add?
We, just to get this moved forward, we've hired an architect to do the drawings to, so you can understand clearly what we're talking about.
We kind of misunderstood originally that it was to be a conceptual thing, so we didn't hire the architect at that point. So,
I mean, generally overall, I think we were all like, oh, this is gonna be a cool little outbuilding, so I think a lot of us got excited. I think it'd be good to just hear some of maybe our overall kind of concerns. I know, one of my concerns was, it's just when we get people that try to use a lot of salvaged components, the intent is great, yes, it upcycles old things, but then they never work homogeneously together.
Yeah.
So just make sure you've got really good information on your salvage French doors and your existing windows. I'll leave it to the architects in the room to talk about materials or anything else, but.
You own most of these materials currently.
we own the arched window, and then we.
Saw a photo of that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I saw a photo of that. Looked
and
good.
then, we
Let me know what
prepared
the house
earlier
looks
to do another, thing that the, commission approved where we had a window. So we saved that window and intended to use it here. If we were to use, or no, when we use more windows, we'll make sure that we have those the same size from the.
I think it could be a really nice little building. Your little drawing and that window there are not really
No,
the same, and so.
that's a napkin drawing.
Yeah, I think that's part of the concern, but he's got an architect, he's gonna measure, he's gonna lay it in.
Yeah.
There should be some data line, there should be some, like, either you line up all the windows at the top of the door or something that you just don't have stuff like all over the place. But otherwise, it's gonna be a cute little building and a kind of an enhancement. I think it could turn out really, really wonderful.
Make sure your architect understands the time.
That's what
Yeah.
Yeah, she's worked with us before.
Are you still taking utilities to the building, power and water and everything?
I was kind of hoping to, I don't know, I'm not sure I want to dig a trench all the way out to the place. I'd like to have electric there. I don't know about water, it's a lot tougher. Right now, it's gonna be a place to pot plants and put a lawnmower.
Garden shed or greenhouse-ish kind of thing.
outside of your architect's drawings too, remember when you come back, bring a photo too of how it like, what the context is versus the main house. I assume this will be kind of like, have little details that relate back to the main house.
It's actually
Might help us.
kind of disguised behind the forsythia now. I know that isn't necessary for you guys to know, but it kind of adds to the.
There's a photo that actually has, there's a lot of growth in the back area, but
Yeah.
it'll be nestled in there pretty good, I think.
Yeah.
To that point, I think if your architect, someone should draw up a landscape plan. Doesn't have to be your whole property, just
Right.
whatever you're.
It's there,
editing,
yeah.
Couple of little things that sort of around it.
Just so we know what you're changing and then
Yeah.
what you're proposing.
It's really good.
Yeah, it took me quite a little bit to get the landscape to look like that. It was pretty weedy.
Beautifully lush.
6 years.
It was weedy ground cover.
Okay, well, we look forward to you coming back with the architect drawings, really.
What other questions do you have for us about the structure? There's some things that you need to, do you want to go over any other ideas or thoughts? I think there's a lot of positive vibes about it.
Probably, we thought that around the exterior, we would put stone as the foundation. Is that okay? Like, for drainage, basically.
Since there's not much of a drainage plan, like gutters and stuff like that, I think that's a good idea, so.
I mean, like a stone wainscot.
No, it's not.
No.
It's not that.
That, yes, but also in the ground.
It's like a drip line kind of thing.
Like a water table.
Yeah, this, I think that it allows for that moisture to be introduced back into the soil, and it keeps from mud from splashing up in the building, all that kind of stuff, so.
Is there any, do we need to research it, or is there any problem with having a window toward the street behind us? That's Rathbone. You've already asked us to make sure that we're within code for the distance. But if we do or don't have a window toward Rathbone or toward our neighbor, is that a problem in either case?
It's not something we,
No, I don't believe so, but that, I mean, other than like an egress type thing.
And the more windows, the merrier, I always think. I like it that you're like, can I put windows on it?
So you're thinking of only doing windows on 3 sides, front on either side, or you just sort of considering?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think the commission would support windows. You might just want to check with building and zoning if there's any fire code issue or some little surprise, but other than that, we're supportive here.
It's not a dwelling structure, it's a garden shed basically, but it's gonna be pretty fancy.
Fancy.
I know.
And I'm a little bit late, so apologize if someone already covered this, but just on the historic guidelines, there are a lot of good items to reference in terms of things to follow. So just quickly, for example, and I won't read this exhaustively, but matching details on doors, windows, eaves to those on the main structure, looking at surrounding buildings and making context part of your structure. I think the more that you can provide the relationship of this building to things that you're seeing in your neighborhood that are historic or your specific property will really be helpful for us in the assessment of the application.
Yeah, that's our intention too.
Perfect.
I'm kind of curious, do you have like a door in the fence, you're gonna park in the alley in the back and bring stuff in, or have you thought about?
Not there. The door for the fence is on the other end of the yard.
Okay.
But we have a really beautiful fence that goes along there.
Yeah.
That we're continuing to restore as it deteriorates, but yeah, the fence going out to Roundabout is on the other end.
Nice, all right. Well, if you don't have any other questions, we don't need formal action.
There's no action, just conceptual review.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
62 West Beach Boulevard. And if you could raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth in the testimony before the commission this evening?
I do.
And state your full name and association with the property for the record.
Steve Hurt with Urban Order Architectures.
Wonderful.
Urban Order Architecture.
Thank you. Jacqueline.
Okay, this application for 63 West Beach Boulevard is a conceptual application where the proposal to include existing screen side porch with windows. The windows have lead plate mullions to match the pattern of the existing house with painted wood panels below, and windows with the existing. So the June 6th business meeting, the commission noted that there are looking for the overall concept of the proposal, noting they have seen similar style homes that have had this done or versions fitted out with actual windows historically. The commission noted that when this comes for action, we'll need to see fleshed out drawings. There is a panel detail shown at the base of the window, and we want to see on the drawings what the base of the sill looks like. What does the panel detailing look like? That sort of thing. Existing versions proposed would be helpful. The commission asked if the applicant could provide additional photos or better documentation of the existing conditions. So this is a conceptual application, so the staff recommendation is that the commissioner could offer design feedback that can be utilized by the applicant to further refine the proposal for review and future adjustment meeting, so no action is required. The basis for that staff recommendation is the city code rule 6.11 standards for alteration. In particular, numbers 1, 9, 10, 11, and 12, as well as the guidelines regarding porches and stoops on pages 18.
What would the applicant like to add before we?
Basically, the concrete slab is there, the arched openings are there, the infilled panel is just to not have glass on the ground. And it would just be a flat panel with a continuous sill under a custom casement window to fill in the existing masonry opening.
Perfect.
Pretty straightforward.
That pattern match.
Yeah, we did an addition to this house. Well, we modified the existing garage into living space and built a new garage a few years ago. I don't know if any of you remember that, but we would be using the same windows. So it's
The date was 2020. Was this sort of in a bigger picture of the plan, or is that?
I think that this might have been part of the original proposal, and the first phase was the conversion of the garage and the new garage.
So we haven't seen this before, though.
Well, you probably have not seen this. Yeah, we have a lot of clients that come back a while later.
I think garage sounds like a pretty fun project, pretty good size.
I'm fine with it as long as you see a full construction detail packet.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're on par with what it looks like, what it look like. The sills height match, pattern matches, looks like it was supposed to be that way.
To me, it's all in the details on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not a lot of details. I mean, we're building
Just the
it.
panel, what the panel is, the sill is, how it works against the existing brickwork.
Does it,
Details on your windows, your window package.
does it affect any of your egress issues out of that porch? Or the house?
Yeah. It's all screened in now.
Okay.
I actually don't think that there is a door.
How are they gonna get it?
There's no door in the screens.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So
So
it's
exterior,
Really plan for,
jump through the window.
yeah.
They're good.
No other comments, questions?
Looks good. Can't wait to see the rest of
Look
it.
forward to you coming back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for waiting.
Moving on to case 15, 755 Linwood Avenue. Thank you very much for your patience this evening.
It's,
If you could raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth in your testimony for the commission this evening.
Yeah.
And state your full name and association with the property record.
Josh Jewell, my wife owns it.
Great. Jacqueline.
This application is for 75 High and Wood Avenue. Conceptual application including demolition and a construction for a garage. So the applicant would like to demolish the existing garage and replace it with new. At the June 6th business meeting, the commissioners present noted that they would support demolition of the garage based on the photo documentation that shows the garage has reached the end of its useful life. The commission noted that the new garage should maintain the proportions of the existing garage, including the roof line. The commission requested scale and measure drawings documenting what's existing and those detailed side by side the new garage. And the commission noted that the new garage can match as much detail of the historic garage as can be done, such as raising the pitch of the roof to match the historic garage roof pitch. So this is a conceptual application, so the recommendation is that the commissioners offer design feedback that can be utilized by the applicant to further refine the proposal for review at a future interested meeting. So no action is required. The basis for the staff recommendation is the City Code 316.14, standards for demolition, 316.12, standards for new construction. And the guidelines regarding garages and outbuildings on pages 86 and 87. That, I'll turn over to the commission.
Does the applicant want to add anything before we take comments?
I don't think so.
Well, I have to say, I think the biggest improvement is that we've got some additional pencil drawings here. Are you planning any light fixtures or anything in the garage?
Not right now.
Not right now, okay.
No.
If you decide to add them, make sure that those come back for approval. Those are pretty easy to approve.
Yeah.
As long as there's something that looks kind of in the style of,
Okay.
you know, we see a lot of, but just, you know, a pair of lanterns, or you know, a lantern on it or something.
Yeah,
Just-
for sure.
Yeah, just make sure you get that checked out.
How the overhangs are, how far? I don't see dimension there.
Not to mention it, but they look nice on the. Did you draw this? Because this has different.
Yeah.
Oh, they already mentioned there one of it, I see
They
it
still drag that out.
on one of the drawings, yeah, that's fine,
I'm assuming you're building it yourself?
Yeah.
Okay.
that's good.
Would we feel comfortable with,
Yeah.
with staff approving this in full with any clarifications on the overhangs and any?
Yeah, no, he's
Are you okay with that staff?
I think so. I just want to make sure we've got all the materials listed out.
I think we do.
yeah, maybe, it looked like smooth.
Yes.
Blue vinyl, got 1x6 trim, it's got 4-inch corners, it's got wood, it's.
What's the size of this garage? The same as the existing garage?
I actually, made it, I think I made it longer, deeper. Cause I got a truck with a ladder rack on it and stuff, and you know, like I've lost thousands of dollars in tools from being parked on my street and stuff, and But I mean, it, whatever you guys say I can do, I'll do, because it's it's pretty much just like a piece of junk, and it's like homeless people keep going in there and breaking into it and stuff, and like.
I was just curious, so.
Might be
Mind the phone.
I don't recall, were you able to get, or have you looked into or touched base with building and zoning? Just to see if there's any variances required or any setback requirements, that kind of thing.
No, I haven't.
You might be just doing that, that way you know, like, if it's good to go, or if they might request a variance, if we need to recommend it, or if they could be shifted over, those kind of details.
Okay.
It's only because you're going with a different size than what's already in place, that's why. So
Okay.
make sure you know, testing the plans.
I wondered if we provide any motion to move this to staff approval conditioned on going through zoning. Through the zoning process.
Sounds good.
And additionally, I think the garage doors themselves need to be clarified what they are.
And this might be a silly question, but have you measured the height of your truck? Can you get that in a door?
Yeah, I'll be able to get it in.
Okay, all right. I figured you had it all figured out.
Yeah, it's not so.
You said racks and things on there, I'm thinking, okay, then.
I've got one in my truck, I can.
You get an 8-foot door.
Just know that if, let's say, building and zoning does say like, oh, this would need a variance, we'll need to bring that back so the commission can provide a recommendation on the variance.
Okay.
Or if you decide to move it over a little bit, they'll probably be fine too. It just kind of depends on what their requirements are.
Okay.
Yeah. John Brown, you know what you're talking. This is for HR 24-06-024, 755 Linwood Avenue, to approve a staff approval of the current drawings with the caveat that in the event that there are zoning or setback issues that need further addition, that it comes back to the commission.
Okay.
Additionally, the doors need to be clarified.
Got sheets on the material.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's the doors.
I'll second.
Having a motion in a second.
I didn't put I think I put the doors in the email to you guys, actually.
Here's the.
Do you recall
Right there.
what kind of doors they were?
Page 18. Yeah.
And haven't we approved those before? They look familiar. Huh?
So maybe doors are okay, just
I think we
about
approved those.
the hardware.
But they were approved before.
I like to have a relationship with the existing.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
I take that comment back.
What?
I said I take that comment back about needing the doors clarified, because I think there's doors in this package.
But that's what you plan on using, right?
Yeah.
And then also the half-white Mastercraft is the man door. It's the other door. on the
Yep.
page.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can look at your appropriate doors for this building.
I mean, they kind of loosely tie back to the.
For the large garage doors, I mean, I think we've approved them before. They look familiar on.
Without, it makes it look like a swinging carriage type of door, because
Yeah.
since we have a little bit of a historic fabric, it sort of gives a little homage to that.
I'm not gonna follow my sword, but.
Yeah, I mean, they're not my favorite either, but I think we did approve them at some point. And so be consistent.
The man door, though, actually, we recommend that there's no light. So that way it's a security thing. So
Okay.
you got a big piece of glass.
Okay.
These are just a solid.
I'm not gonna fight over a garage.
Right.
Right.
But I mean, if you want a glass there,
You can certainly do it.
you can do it, or if you want it solid, you can do that too.
Would you like to amend the motion to approve the doors as presented again?
We okay with it?
I'd say just avoid the faux hardware.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll amend it to showing as noted in the application without the faux hardware.
Okay.
Is that okay? Second.
Approve and second.
Okay.
Perfect.
Any further discussion?
And resecond.
Okay, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes. Just work with staff. You're actually pretty much on your way to getting this one wrapped up.
Sweet, thank you guys.
We're a long way.
Hey. And this whole thing that was worth waiting for.
Yeah. Appreciate you guys.
Okay, now let's go back to these couple that we need to continue. So in the, I would entertain a motion on case number 6330 Loeffler Avenue.
Continue.
Yes, to continue, as well as case number 9686 South Champion Avenue.
Also to continue to next month's hearing.
Yes. So moved. Yeah, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Yes, second.
Hearing a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstention, motion passes. Jacqueline, is there any items of new or old business?
There are not. Now, we do have this one application which was moved to staff with conditions. We haven't heard back from the applicant. I mean, they could still submit those and still be moved to staff approval. We just haven't heard. But we want to continue this for now.
I would like to continue this for now.
Okay.
So the second continue, or is it the first time we continued?
I think this is the first time we've actually.
This is the first time. we're
Okay,
going to-
so we've got time.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to continue to
Second.
the July agenda.
Okay, having a motion and a second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, passes, and no other items of new or old business, correct?
That's correct.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, there's a motion.
I'll second that.
Having a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we are officially adjourned at 6:56 PM.